Welcome to the first annual API Women's Leadership Conference. I am Yan Marshall, the National Executive Director of APAPA. Before we get started, I just want to extend our sympathy to those who are impacted by the wildfires that are taking place in California. I hope you are all okay and continue to stay safe. It's terrible to have to deal with fires on top of this pandemic. Our hearts go out to you and your family during this challenging time. Please let us know if we can be of some help to you. As you all know, one of our own, the APAPA founder, Cici and Regina Yin, are directly impacted as a part of this fire. Yin Ranch is now gone, part of it anyway. It was a place that was built for the community, especially the API community, to meet, to network, and to develop young leaders. We are currently working on a solution for that, and we will share with you our plans as soon as they are available. Now, back to the conference. This month is the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. Can you envision what it was like down upon socially, economically, and politically? I thought that only happened in a third world country I came from, where my mom didn't get to go to school, but her brothers did. Well, today, women are not just voting, they become leaders and lawmakers across the land. And what makes this achievement even more noteworthy is the growing participation of API women. We're going to hear from 8 of them today. They'll talk about their leadership journeys and the lessons they learned. They'll give you an exclusive look inside the halls of politics and power. I'm looking forward to that. This conference would not be possible without the sponsors that are listed at the bottom of your screen. Thank you, sponsors. We appreciate you. And here are the plaques that will be on your way soon. I also want to point out the letters of support we received from Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis, California Treasurer Fiona Ma, California Controller Betty Yee, and California State Senator Shannon Grove. They will all be speaking in today's program. We would also like to recognize Senator Jim Nielsen, Assembly Member Al Murasuchi, Assembly Member Kesson Chu, Katie Guthrie of the Office of Assembly Member Rudy Salas Jr., along with a few others for viewing the conference this morning from your own home. Lastly, I want to mention that the idea for today's conference came from a brainstorming sessions that took place here at APAPA headquarters before COVID-19 with some of the APAPA women's leaders from Sacramento and Tri-Valley chapters of APAPA. We thought it was time to talk about women and their leadership journeys. Marsha Golanko and Susanna Wong Ortway step up to co-chair the conference for APAPA, helping us to raise funds and lifting the women at the same time. Before you know it, the SHEro Award was born. It was to take place in March, but the pandemic, as a result of that, we canceled it. And now that we figured this virtual online options out, we're bringing it back just for you. So thank you, Marsha and Susanna. At this time, I would like to turn the program over to Marsha Golanko.
Thank you, Yan. Hello, APAPA friends from the United States and all over the world. I'm Marsha Golanko. I welcome you to this amazing event. On behalf of my team, I'm happy to let you know that despite the pandemic and the raging fire in Northern California, we are still determined to make it happen. There are 3 important points or purpose of this event. First, first and utmost is to celebrate women's right to vote. And we want to strengthen the ongoing women leadership movement, and especially in the Asian Pacific Islander women leadership movement, to acknowledge some of the women leaders in different positions of the public offices. There are some more senior ones, and they are our role models. They have been serving the public office for many years. And there are recent newcomers who are determined also to devote their life in serving others. And the highlight of today's event is to present a special award to an extraordinary person. We are going to present the first APAPA SHEro Award to Regina Yin. She will be here in person to accept this award, and together with her husband, Cici Yan. Now, I'm going to turn over the program to our MC, Susanna Wong Alway. Susanna is my co-chair, and she is also a fellow board member in APAPA Tri-Valley chapter. She is an elected official serving as a school board in our district. Susanna, let's welcome her.
Hi, Marcia. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. As your MC, I have the pleasure of introducing several of our notable speakers for our conference. Before we start, I wanted to first give you an overview of our program today. As you can see on the screen, the bulk of our time will be spent on 2 different panels of amazing leaders in public and community service. In between these panels, we will be unveiling and presenting a very special award to a very, very special person. And of course, we will also have these powerful and inspiring speakers address us on being a women leader today. If you need to refer to our program schedule again, you can find it at apapa.org/women2020. So for our first keynote speaker, we have someone who has a uniquely important role in our state, especially during the current pandemic, where we have the increasing need to communicate virtually. Amy Tong was appointed as State Chief Information Officer and the California Department of Technology Director in 2016 by Governor Jerry Brown. Her leadership was so successful that Governor Gavin Newsom has reappointed her to both roles as a statewide leader in technology and information. It is my pleasure to introduce Amy Tong. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning, Susanna. Good morning.
So thank you so much for being here today. And before, I know we're really excited for you to speak, but before we give it over to your remarks, I understand that you have a long history with APAPA and that you're our national advisor. Can you just give us a little bit of your history? And then you can continue with your remarks.
Sure, absolutely. Yes, I was, I'll call it the first crew, the initial crew of the APAPA, when Cici and my father, Peter, along with several key members, such as Chilean and Vicky Beaton, founded APAPA. My goodness, I feel like it's nearly 25 years ago. And I was part of that group. And of course, I, was the youngest one amongst all of them. And they're like, Amy, why don't you go ahead and do the work and get things going? So here I am, nearly 25 years later, continue to be a volunteer to this wonderful organization. And I'm really, really happy to be here today to help kick off this Women's Leadership Conference. So with that, once again, thank you everyone for inviting me, and good morning. Welcome to the very first APAPA's Women's Leadership Conference. Special thanks to our National Executive Director, Yan Marshall, Marcia and Susanna for spearheading this, and the entire headquarter crew for putting this together. Today, you will hear from an impressive group of women leaders, sharing their journey to great accomplishment along with the challenges they have overcome. APAPA is incredibly grateful to them for taking the time from their busy schedule and spending this Saturday morning with us. A prime example of giving back to the community. Speaking of giving back to the community, as I mentioned earlier, serving as a volunteer in the role of APAPA's National Senior Advisor is not only an honor, but a privilege. Remember, over 30 years ago, I came to this country as a teenager, along with my parents, Peter and Susan Huang, and my brother, Jesse, with only 8 suitcases, one in each one of our hands, started our American dreams. Barely speaking any English, my parents had to work multiple jobs to support the family. My brother and I worked throughout college to put ourselves through the higher education. It is true, it is through true endurance, hard work, and support from the community we became indoctrinated into this society. I went into public service right after college with a strong sense of mission and purpose to serve the state of California. And then, as I mentioned earlier, after CC, my dad, Peter, and many of the founding members founded APAPA nearly 25 years ago, community service became a huge part of my life. The experience I gained by working with so many community members from all walks of life really taught me how to be a servant leader. Coupled with hard work, perseverance, and the support from my wonderful family, my husband Duper, my kids Alvin and Danielle, propelled me into where I am today, serving as the first California State Chief Information Officer from a first-generation immigrant. This is an experience that simply is amazing, with mentorship from great role models such as Meili Tong, Controller Betty E, Mona Pascal, and many others, and the great privilege to work with community partners such as Lucy Oback. I'm very humbled to open this inaugural Women's Leadership Conference for APAPA. In closing, I want to give a special shout out to CC and Regina in. Despite the devastating impact to their ranch by the fire, they remain strong and positive. Despite the heartbreaking loss of their 28 years of oasis, they remain kind and generous. Just like they always do, during this hard time, they continue to offer free McDonald's to all of the first responders. Cici and Regina, you are truly inspirational. You are the heart and soul of APAPA and the community. Please know that you are not alone in this. We are all here for you, and we shall overcome together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy, for your inspiring words and the importance of the connection between volunteerism and public service. And now, what makes this event possible, and many others brought to you by APAPA, are our generous sponsors. One of them is Tony Ni, the founder of California Health Technology, or CHT. CHT is a medical technology company based right here in California that focuses on developing, manufacturing, and distributing personal protective equipment and various other types of medical products and equipment. Their motto, we protect the health of people with care and innovation. You and CHT sure do, Tony. In fact, we're all wearing masks today, made by CHT. Also, thank you, Tony, for helping us introduce our next keynote speaker.
State Controller Betty E is a good friend and a long-term supporter of APAPA. Even today, she continues to mentor our interns and speak at our events. Controller E was elected to her position in November 2014, following 2 terms of service on the California Board of Equalization. As the state's chief fiscal officer, Ms. Yi chairs the Franchise Tax Board and serves as a member of the California Public Employees Retirement System and the California State Teachers Retirement System boards. These two boards have a combined portfolio of more than 620 billion US dollars. Ms. Yi also serves on dozens of boards and commissions with authority ranging from land management to crime victim compensation. A native of San Francisco, Ms. Yi received her bachelor degree in sociology from the University of California, Berkeley, and she holds a master's degree in public administration. It's my great honor to introduce California State Controller Betty Yi.
Hey. Hi, good morning, Betty.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you doing this morning?
Very well, very well. So happy to be with you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, because I've been on a couple of virtual events, as much, and it seems like you're always, being asked to participate in them. So thank you so much for taking time out to be with us.
You're welcome.
So we're really excited to hear your keynote.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to join you this morning. And I just want to say thank you to APAPA for hosting this virtual API Women's Conference. And first, let me thank Yen Marshall and the entire conference organizing team for making this virtual convening possible. And of course, to our sponsors for your sustained support of APAPA. But I really want to extend our collective heartfelt gratitude to Cece and Regina Yin, first for their safety with the devastating wildfires that have swept throughout so many parts of our state, and second for their co-founding APAPA with a dedicated vision of increasing API civic engagement and expanding and supporting API leadership at all levels of government. This week, we witnessed history as the first South Asian and Black woman accepted the Democratic nomination for the Vice President of the United States. And regardless of your political party affiliation, this is really a significant time for all women. And I hope we can share in the awesomeness of this moment. It's really awesome because it was this one moment that was possible because of the impact and the influences of so many of the social movements that have brought us to this point. The anti-slavery movement, the suffrage movement, the civil rights movement, the Voting Rights Act, and the women's movement, and this just really elevated to this point of where we are today. And of course, all of us are witnessing the movement today for sustained racial justice and equality. As women leaders, we've not always had an easy path, and because there have been so few opportunities for women to be in leadership positions, we couldn't really understand the concept of sisterhood. As I think about, just sometimes how lonely it is as I'm serving, how few women there are, and luckily we have many more. And I'm really honored to be serving with Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis and State Treasurer Fiona Ma at the statewide constitutional level. But I've often asked, in my public service, where's the sisterhood? And what we've seen, unfortunately, is just women seeking to ascend in power and, building their power by taking down, that of others. Not the most healthy thing to do. We've known those whose fierce competition for attention and recognition has compelled them to work hard to be sure that they're the only person in the room, excluding other women with qualifications, with experience and knowledge, and intentionally excluding the voices, frankly, of women from underserved communities. We've also seen marches and protests where millions have come together in solidarity to fight for justice and equality. And then after those marches and protests, receding back to, really this mentality that those who are successful can say, I've got mine, and really everybody else is on their own. So I actually personally was very naive in thinking that the purpose of the women's movement had created lasting sisterhood, but came to understand that we can't have sustained, powerful sisterhood when so many sisters are excluded. And that includes women of color, including API women, women with disabilities, obviously young women. And this is not just an attribute of the women's movement, but so many of the social movements in our history. So I'm really grateful to my ally colleagues who are secure in themselves, knowing that their own power diminishes when they attack that of others, and demonstrating and expressing vulnerability as a strength and not a weakness. And I'm also grateful, notwithstanding how our past policies have been about exclusion, that we're witnessing history in the making, poised to send the first woman and API woman to Washington, D.C. as our next vice president. Now, this time is also going to be one where our sisterhood will be tested. History will not be made and will elude us if we don't come together to really honor this moment with our sister, U.S. Senator Kamala Harris, because she will be faced with many, many attacks. And already we have seen racial attacks, misogynistic attacks on her. And without a doubt, I know she can hold her own, but these are going to be relentless. And really, if there are attacks on her, they're an attack on all of us. And so we really need to have her back because this is a moment that we've all worked so hard for. So many struggles have led us to this point, and we just can't take a step back. And so this is really not about not continuing to hold her accountable. That's not what I'm talking about. It's about the fact that we are going to show young women and girls that women, and particularly women of color, API women, can lead and can be leading in our highest offices in our nation. This is about, in the eyes of the descendants of the anti-slavery movement, of the Black women suffragists. And by the way, Chinese women suffragists is very little known about or written about in our U.S. history. And so many women who were and are excluded and isolated and ignored. We only are going to realize sisterhood when we all come together and support these moments, like when we have one of our own ascending into the White House. So when we actually can help hope take root, that's when any woman or girl who aspires will be able to know that we are standing right beside her to lift her up. So we've come this far, and let me just say, as a woman and as an API woman, we have a tremendous opportunity to chart a new leadership path. If we step into the challenges of this time and demonstrate what leadership must look like. And at this time, when we have 4 major crises that are afflicting harm to so many, there's an outcry for leaders who to just see and hear those who are hurting, those who are suffering. And as we continue to get to the work, as we continue to work to get to the other side of this public health crisis, the coronavirus pandemic, as we focus on how to restore livelihoods lost as a result of the pandemic-induced recession, as we do our part to promote inclusive workplaces and communities in the fight for true and lasting racial equity and justice, and as we work to be sure that the impacts of climate change, whether they be wildfires caused by extreme weather events or our children breathing more polluted air or other impacts, we want to be sure that our leadership is forthright, that it is strong, and this is what will be in demand. So each of us will be responsible in our own way for helping to rebuild this economy, and particularly here in California. And so we must step up to the challenge of not just securing the survival of our economy, but also ensuring equity and shared prosperity in its recovery. Together, we will be working to future-proof our economy, to minimize the shocks and stresses of anticipated events. And the economic shocks and stresses of the COVID-19 pandemic are vast, and every day reveals new lessons for how California must better prepare to tackle both the known and unforeseeable challenges ahead. This will require risk-intelligent leadership, long-term planning, as well as short-term actions, dedication to reducing vulnerability and building resiliency, and creativity in how we utilize our finite physical, financial, and human resources, executed with discipline and informed by science and data. And as we've learned, risks and dangers that once seemed really distant and remote can quickly become very imminent. And as the leaders of our post-pandemic recovery, we will be serving in these times when our resolve will be tested, when the paths for forging ahead will be unclear, and when navigating crises will require honesty about the facts and transparency to engender trust. And most significantly, our leadership at this time must be inclusive and decisive to be effective. So yes, this is a time for leaders to act, but also equally important, this is a time for us to learn, to listen, and to reflect. And while urgent actions will be expected, they must not be expedient or fleeting in impact. We don't have all the answers, and therefore it is important to be honest about our vulnerabilities as leaders, that we understand those with and for whom we serve. So I speak about this with regard to our leadership going forward, not to be demoralizing, but really to be emboldening. I speak of all this because these are the attributes of the recipient of our SHEro award later today, Regina Yin. Regina embodies the fulfillment of the American dream, not just for herself, but for so many others whom she has guided and helped. An immigrant, a social worker, a risk taker who sacrificed her career to get into the restaurant franchise business, a bridge builder between diverse communities, committed to equality, and a philanthropist. You see, leaders do not have to be elected or have fancy titles or even be highly visible. It's leaders like Regina who do the work quietly, not for credit, and create opportunities for others who are the ultimate standouts because their purpose is selfless. I can't think of a more inspiring role model, friend, and SHEro than Regina Yin to honor as we gather to celebrate and lift up API women in leadership. And I think as we gather today, just knowing how daunting our challenges ahead, and for all of us as leaders and aspiring leaders moving forward, let's commit to serving in sisterhood, and let's be inspired by those who have done so much to bring us to this point. And I want to just give a heartfelt congratulations and thank you to Regina Yin, and wish all of you a very successful conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Betty, for your advice to our viewers on what it means to be an API woman leader today. You're right. We've come a long way, but there's so much more that we need to do. Thank you again. I'm really excited to introduce the next segment of our program. We have a wonderful panel of women leaders from different areas of public service. And for our moderator, we have the wonderful Tong, who is at the top of any list when talking about API leaders. Meili has extensive experience in politics and at all levels of government. She has held positions appointed by former Presidents Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton. She has served in leadership roles in many public and community organizations and was instrumental in organizing a convention in 1987 where, for the very first time, presidential candidates discussed API issues at a national public forum. Meili, hi, welcome to our conference today, and the floor is yours.
Your challenge, you'll see what I'm saying. Our first panelist represents a story of struggle as a child of immigrant parents and struggle to survive on many different fronts, including being a single mother, raising her child on her own, all at the same time while earning a degree at UC Berkeley in legal studies. And now I can proudly call her the Honorable Sheng Tao, because she is the first Hmong woman to be elected to City Council of the city of Oakland. And then we have Priscilla Ching, who proudly calls herself a San Gabriel Valley girl. She earned her organizational stripes in organized labor, where she worked her way up to become the chief of staff of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, which is remarkable for someone at her age. And she didn't escape the gubernatorial candidate's eye, Gavin Newsom at that time, who tapped her to become a senior aide on his campaign. And subsequently, when he became governor, he anointed her that humongous task of being his director of external affairs. And she's also known to have the ear of the governor. Our third panelist is Sherry Yang, who's had 13 years of experience in politics, policy, and communications. And then she took a job with the legislature as a staff person to Senator Melissa Hurtado. Didn't take her long to ascend into the chief of staff position. And I know how difficult it is to be in that competitive position to achieve chief of staff. She's the first Hmong woman to become chief of staff in the state legislature. We have a lot of barriers broken here. And then that wasn't enough. The California Democratic Party decided to steal her away because they saw her talent. So she's now communication director for the California Democratic Party. Then we have Lindsay Nita, who I have had the pleasure to see her career soar. She is now the executive director for the California Lead, Women's Lead organization, which really is responsible for building a pipeline of dynamic women who are seeking public office in local, state, and federal levels of government. She's kind of an entrepreneur too, because she also started a champagne bar here in Sacramento. She's a woman of many talents, and to achieve the vice president title of the very prominent Mercury Public Affairs company kind of demonstrates her talents. I think you could tell by the caliber of women here that you're going to hear from. We want them to kind of share lessons learned during their pathway, because again, these are women who can share their midterm pathway up the ladder with all of you. So I'm going to start with a question to all the panelists. We'll start with the Honorable. With this question, and have all of you just follow her responses. What were the major factors in your life that steered you towards careers in either public service, all of you in public service, or an elected office? And I'll start with you.
Thank you so much, Maylee. I just want to say thank you for paving the path for us that follow behind you. You're always lifting while you climb, and that's continues to be something that I charge myself with, is, continue to lift while we climb. That question is so, there's just so much. But as a daughter of refugees, really seeing my parents, their struggle, and at a young age, I really saw that there were so much of the haves and have-nots, and the have-nots really throughout, just really at no fault of their own. And so for me, at an early age, it was all about the connection between how a family's quality of life is determined by their access to wealth, right? Their access to networks. And then not only that, but really, when I, as a single mom and putting myself through college at UC Berkeley, every summer I would look for an internship to see, a paid internship, right? To get the experience, and not just that, but to really get some funding so that I can, put the basic needs on in my household with my son. And I did an internship through APAPA, actually. And at that time, they were giving out $1,000 stipends. And so I was like, okay, that's what I'll do. But really, that was actually the determining factor of really understanding, hey, government and local government is where I need to be, because you only know what you know. And growing up as a daughter of refugee, it was, there wasn't much that we learned at home about local government and impact. And so, lo and behold, through the APAPA internship, it's just a program to get API into local government and civic duty. And it changed my life because there was no turning back. I became a chief of staff for a council member on the Oakland City Council. And then from there, I realized that, oh my goodness, there in the city of Oakland, there's about 35% API, but yet not one person on the council represented that population, right? No one looks like me. And so when the seat became open, it was a contentious election and campaign, but I knew that it was my responsibility to actually, with the support of the community, to actually run for the seat and be that person where folks can come in and won't be fearful, won't look different, right? And so that was really all of the push that I needed from my life experiences all the way until understanding that there's huge impacts made at the legislative levels.
Thank you for paying tribute to the APAPA internship and leadership program. You are a product of what APAPA's program is all about. Scylla, San Gabriel girl, how did you do it?
Look, I think we were really lucky, and I grew up in Monterey Park, to have someone like Congresswoman Judy Chu, who broke a lot of ceilings to get to where she's at, to inspire a next generation of young API leaders. I was lucky, though. In terms of being able to have immigrant parents who were able to succeed and have that American dream. And so I never thought I would frankly get into advocacy. I was like, I'm going to be a corporate law attorney. I'm going to make a lot of money, and then I'll just give back, on my free time and on the weekends. And it wasn't until, frankly, I began to meet with everyday workers in Los Angeles, who came to this country just to work hard and provide for their families and couldn't do it. I saw people who worked, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week and could barely provide the basics for their families. And frankly, it was those stories, those individual stories of, as a young organizer, community organizer, and labor organizers, I sat in living rooms and at kitchen tables and in workplaces with folks who were just like, I just want to get treated with dignity and respect and just do what I needed to clock in and clock out and provide more for my family than I would. So those are the stories and those are the places that I'm reminded of every single day, of individuals who do so much every day and just want to be able to get close to or be able to live that American dream that I so lucky was able to do and have.
Thank you. What about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think community service is something that was really important to my family. So always involved and always giving back. And I wasn't really sure how that played into my career. And it really was reaching out to a lot of women that have been supportive along the way, learning from them, trying new things, and finding my passion, which is helping women get into leadership positions and seeing their potential. And that was only through building a community and building relationships with great people, many on this panel and many more. We really need a community and a tribe to help us all succeed. And so I can't point to one thing, but I tried many, and you just got to follow what you like and follow your passion.
Sherry, we need to get Sherry in here. Sherry?
Hi. Hello.
Hi, Sherry. There you are. There you are.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so actually I want to thank APAPA for having me here today to be part of this amazing panel of women who I admire so much. So to answer your question, I'm a first generation Indigenous Hmong woman, just like Councilwoman Cheng Tao. And so we have a lot of very similar stories to each other. So what that means is that I come from a long line of refugees. And my father, my grandfather, they were all guerrilla war fighters during the war in Vietnam. And so as a matter of fact, my entire family before me was recruited by the CIA. So I grew up hearing about the stories of political warfare and how much that impacted me personally. And so growing up, my mom always had some sort of news on, and she taught me how to stay engaged in the political world because I was, we were impacted, our livelihood were impacted by politics. So before I even started in elementary school, I learned about Lyndon B. Johnson, the Cold War, Kissinger, and politics for me was never just a job, but it was always a way to make life better for others, and that's how and why I got involved.
I hear a common theme among the four of you, amazing women, and the theme is passion. It's dedication to public service and serving others. This is probably one of the key questions that young women tuning in would like to hear from each of you. And that is, from your experience, what skills do you feel young professional women these days need to develop in order to prepare for leadership, executive positions that all of you hold today at your youth, during your youth? And I will start with Priscilla on this one.
Okay. I will say that for those that are seeking higher office or having a fancy title, I think my boss says it frequently is you don't have to be something to do something. And I think we've seen that over this past summer in particular of young people who don't have formalized positions of power, just leading and leading that change. And so I would say get something you're excited and passionate about and make some good trouble. As the great John Lewis says, start it, agitate a little mind. And see if you're going in the right direction. See if you can gather a few other friends and then build.
Mm-hmm. Lindsay.
Yeah. I kind of echo what Priscilla said, where you don't have to have years and years of experience. You just have to have vision. You have to have a passion. You have to have courage, and you have to be decisive. And I think that if you got to focus on what's important to you and how you can make an impact. And I'll also say that building a relationship is really important. Nobody does it alone. So I would say if there's one real skill that I think is important throughout your life is to make sure that you're building bridges, making connections. You'll learn so much, And also, you always need that support and network to help you fulfill your dreams and support your communities.
Sherry.
Yeah, I would say I completely agree with you all. And I also would add that as an API woman, I think confidence, I think we face so many expectations on us, not only within our communities, but when we step outside of our own four walls. And I think when you're young and you're a person who has your own personal history of oppression, you go into this world that places a lot of expectations on API women to be model minorities, docile. So API women often go through this journey of learning how to use their voice and to recognize that our perspective and our experience matters as well. I mean, it took, a very long time for me to get here. And if you take a look at the numbers, it's like 1 in 4 APIs in California is struggling. But if you take a look at the API community as a whole, it's so diverse, where 44% of Hmongs in California are struggling disproportionately with poverty. And the highest number resides within the Central Valley. And only 15% of Hmong people in California has a college degree. So I had to really make peace with this and really own my self-identity and really push back on these stereotypes and say, hey, I belong here. I climbed out of severe poverty. My family survived a mass genocide, and I deserve a seat at the table too. So definitely confidence as well.
And of course, Shane Tao.
Yeah, I definitely concur with everything that these great women have all said. Definitely the confidence and the networking and finding good mentors. Finding good mentors, and it's actually really key for how I see it to be successful in these positions, because you need a way to stay rooted to your values, because when things will get hard and they'll get sticky, and you're going to need these mentors to turn to really, not to hold you to your values, but to really remind you that you do belong and that you deserve this voice at the table. And I know that for myself, it's extremely important for me to have my son look back at the work that I've done, the impact that I've created for, the intergenerational change or what have you, and be proud of that work. And so it's having not just the network, but the strong mentors, people who are going to support you and be there for you no matter through all your ups and downs.
I think so too, and I want to conclude this point in terms of finding mentorship, that to encourage women, don't hesitate to go up to someone you admire and just say, I've watched you, and I was wondering if you can maybe give me some advice how to follow your pathway. Nothing's more complimentary than that, and not to be shy to approach women and just say, I really would like your help. And I'm glad that all 4 of you feel how important mentorship is. I'd like to now kind of ask each of you an individual question that really tailor makes to your background. And I'll start with you, Shane Tao. And when you decided to run for office, what was the greatest challenge and barriers that you faced, not only as a young Asian American woman, but someone who came from an immigrant background, who looks young? And you know how it is, sometimes you have that young image, really works against you, especially since all of you are so attractive. Sometimes that really works against you. So Shing Tao, tell me about that.
Yeah, there's institutional racism and sexism and institutional stereotypes about what a young Asian woman is. And so when I decided to run, it was an open seat, and I was running against 6 others. I believe my seat was the most contested in the whole East Bay at that time. And so the cultural part was really difficult, right? And so I had a lot of people in my own Hmong community come up to me and say, and let me just give some context. I don't represent not one Hmong person in my district, right? And so when I went to the Central Valley for that support, I was met with people coming to me saying, well, you're not married, you're a single mom, you have a child out of wedlock. Like, are you sure people will even vote for you? And for me, that was really hurtful, but it's a cultural, it was, you only know what you know. And so I didn't, I already went through domestic violence. I'm a single mom. I put myself through college. Like, it didn't faze me, but I know that it's hurtful, right? And so that was some sort of, that was a roadblock, really, not even a roadblock, a barrier that I had to get over, because these were my community. But then I charged myself that we need to do a lot more teaching, a lot more learning and healing from that. And so Another great challenge is also the institutional sexism as well. I know that I've been working with large groups of organizations, and some of them were male dominated, and they didn't take me seriously because they saw me as this nice Asian woman, and at sometimes it feels like they're just trying to bait you to, because they feel like being an Asian who is vulgar is it means to be serious. And I had to get to that point for them to actually take me seriously. Literally, I had to take one of them to the side, say some really bad foul words to them, and then they said, okay, let's have a serious conversation now, Shane, when I was completely having a serious conversation for months with them, right? And so these were a lot of the different barriers that really we have to struggle through, not just as women, but as API women. And so it's the cultural aspect, the institutional sexism, and the stereotypes of like what an API woman is, right? It's supposed to be obedient or what have you. And so it was pretty difficult, but like I said, I have gone through worse. And so just charged through it. And with people by my side, a strong support system, it was really, you just don't know how many people are out there to support you in your story until, like you say, Maylee, asking for that support. People are there and they'll stick with you.
And of course, the challenges of your early life too, I'm sure gave you that extra strength to be competitive and to stand on your own. Priscilla, I, for one, know the immense challenge that you face in trying to balance all of the special interest groups who just clamor for the governor's attention, who have issues. You're in charge of being the liaison to all those special interest groups. And it must be quite a challenge of how you balance the priorities, how you make the decisions that are going to benefit the governor.
I mean, one of the things that I do, I'm from an LA girl now living in Sacramento, is really just looking around and seeing who's not at the table. That's the first thing that I do. Is I think you have the traditional kind of special interests, or those that are part of the third house, you'll say, here in Sacramento. And I just look around and say, where are those voices that aren't included as part of the conversation before we even can start to kind of assess what's happening? And so that's one piece. And the second piece around prioritizations of issues, I mean, the governor has clearly stated kind of North Stars, if you would, within what he's done within his career, and what we've known as an administration that he wants to set forward. But then you have years like this one, where you can have great priorities and great dreams and goals, and then just life takes you in whatever direction. We have a pandemic, economic instability, energy, wildfires. Things are unpredictable. And so sometimes you got to be able to kind of adjust what those priorities are. But again, in all of those pieces, really looking at who is not at the table on all these issues, and do we need to have those uncomfortable conversations with folks?
How do you handle the uncomfortable conversations?
You have to be okay with people saying not so nice things to you, friends who you've known for years. And sometimes that, for me, it's just practice. Call somebody who you know is going to oppose whatever issue you are, but be okay enough to be able to speak truth to them. Be okay to make a call to them to say, hey, he's not moving in this direction, and be okay with them yelling at you and cussing you out for, a period of time. I think you have to be able to practice having those uncomfortable conversations in order to begin to have those honest conversations.
And not taking them personally.
Oh, absolutely not.
A long time.
For the first 5 minutes you can, but you got to get over it at some point. Yeah.
But I think that the reputation you earned, though, Priscilla, and I have to say this, a lot of admiration, is you're very honest. You're very frank, and you don't BS. I mean, very, and people respect you for that. So Priscilla, that's tough to do. Sherry, describe how you were able to ascend in your career. I mean, you went from community organization to legislative staffer to chief of staff, and now communication director. Those are a lot of steps of promotion in your young life. And how did you navigate that?
Well, my experience in politics was a little different. I mean, it was never my intention to be a chief of staff. I think it just happened to fall on my lap at the time, and I rose to the occasion. I was, never a legislative director, but I had worked in policy and political campaign and public relations within politics for 10 plus years. So in 2015, I did the best I could. I did something for myself, and I left California and moved to Washington, D.C. I lived in Annapolis, which is about 30 minutes outside of D.C., and was working there during the Trump and Clinton presidential race. And when Trump won, it was so disheartening for me that I decided to take a break from politics. I left for about 2 years, and I wanted to just really focus on, for the next few years and figure out where I needed to grow as a person. And so I left and went into the tech corporate world and worked in PR there for a few years. And what that did for me was that gave me room to really focus on my skills, focus on my professional growth. And I had a life outside of politics. So when I came back to Sacramento in 2019, I was just 10 times more confident in my skills because I had lived and worked in DC, North Carolina, Utah. So I had the ability to work with a diverse group of people and strategically execute and be effective as well as pragmatic. I've always been really like book smart and things like that, but life has a way of being a good teacher when you're out there by yourself. So yeah.
Did you find sometimes that when you became chief of staff that you were tested and not taken as seriously, because here you are, this young Asian woman, and as a chief of staff, and people that and I know that political environment in the Capitol, you have to really assert yourself because it's the survival of the fittest. Did you find that sometimes you were faced with that? You were taken as seriously as if you were a white male?
Absolutely. I think regardless, as an API woman, I'm speaking from an API woman's perspective. As I said earlier, the stereotypes that are placed on us are so intense, especially in the Capitol. And so when people talk about API, they don't necessarily understand what that means. They kind of just group API people all in one group, and they don't realize how diverse the API community is. And so it's a constant push back and forth of like saying, hey, this is who I am, this is my experience, and making sure that they know that I'm here because I deserve to be here.
Lindsay, I see as a person who's a master of so many trades. I know your career in terms of when you worked for a public affairs firm, and then I know that you started your own company and you managed clients, and now I think your position as the executive director of this women's organization is a real tribute to you. I think being the head of an organization, and I will say this, of all women, has its challenges, and it makes you develop some skills to try to not only manage an organization, develop the priorities, but to get these diverse interests of women to follow your path.
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot of listening. I think that's one of the biggest things, is just understanding what the needs are of the community that you seek to serve, where they want to go, and where it fits in, and how you can help them be successful. So always listening to women all over. Our board, as you said, is very diverse and really powerful women that have rose through ranks, and so much knowledge there. And so no matter how far you go, I see them listening and learning from each other. And it's been a great opportunity to be able to be part of those conversations and to hear what they have to say and to learn from them. Sheng Tao, I must say, is a board member, and I'm so thankful to have someone like her on the board to really provide perspective on how we are going to build diversity, be inclusive, and make sure that we're serving all women of California. And so it's a constant, I think, for any organization, for any person in leadership, you always have to be listening to your staff and your board, listening to the communities you seek to serve, and learning from them, and finding that where you fit in to make the most impact and to be successful. I think the other big thing is, again, with California Women Lead, very fortunate to have a really engaged, successful board. And some organizations, that's a lot of work, but it's worth it to have a group of people that are there to provide insight, to do outreach, to support the efforts and support each other, and exude what your organization is seeking to do, to exude your mission and to help you reach those goals. is so important. So again, that's just the network and having that trust and having those relationships where you guys can support each other and really believe in the work and accomplish great things. I think one of the things that is always important but has been so highlighted during COVID is communication effectiveness to be successful. It's, checking in with people, texts, Zooms, Skypes like this, to share information and to share learning and have that connection right now is so imperative, what APAPA is doing and others to have these opportunities. But I also think it's an opportunity and is needed to exude leadership and to exude the importance of, staying connected or whatever your goals may be. Having that communication is really important to not just share information, but make sure that you are staying relevant and you are building community, and your community is really understanding and seeing themselves in your work. I think one of the things too is, building diverse partnerships is really important for success of an organization. We have to, we're in it together. We can be supportive of each other, but it's also their perspective and learning from their communities. And again, we're all in this together. So making strategic partnerships where we can strengthen and reach, especially for us women, during this critical time where we know COVID is hitting women of color the most, has been super important to making sure that we are actually supporting women during these times. And that is, for California Women League, a big measure of success.
If I had to ask you, what is the most significant challenge you face as an executive director? A lot of people say fundraising. I don't know if that's your case, but what's the one major challenge that's the toughest for you?
Yeah, I think that fundraising, I think will always, it's always a priority. I know it's harder for others, and I know we're going to have to be really creative in probably the year ahead, the next 6 months, just understanding that there's a lot of hardships out there. So how can we help support, and where do we fit in to build a stronger community, make sure that our members come out of this stronger, women come out of this stronger, and have that, and are having the conversations to make sure that we are, as a state of California too, providing the resources needed for women. I would say the biggest hurdle during COVID right now is just, for California Women Lead, I should say, is that we strive in building strong relationships, strong bonds with each individual woman, because we really want to know how we can help that woman get to her leadership potential. How can she get an appointment? How can she get into elective office? And we do that with each individual woman. We have mentoring, coaching, and we used to be able to do that in person, where we got to see the women, really get to know them, and have and really think about what opportunities are out there for them. And so being able to connect individually has been the biggest hurdle. Having the time. We are all on Zoom all the time. We're all doing all that we can. And it just seems like we just need a little more time to make more phone calls, to check in with our members more. And so trying to have those opportunities that are unique, where we can feel safe and having those conversations and having real conversations, real answers, when we have to do things virtually and crunch for time, it's been hard.
It's a tough job, I know. I'm going to throw in some fun questions now that you can just respond to. You don't have to go in real deep, but I think they're fun questions that women would be interested in. And I'll start this one with Sherry. Do you have a dream goal? A dream goal that you want to achieve in the future? Because all of you have so much more to accomplish because of where you are today and because of your talent. So, Sherry, any dream goal?
I think right now, really just doing the work to get Biden and Harris in the White House and continuing to grow and work with amazing women like Yvette Martinez, who is just walks the walk, and respectful men like Rusty Hicks, who have done an incredible job at getting the California Democratic Party back on track, and just also at the same time being the best wife possible to my my husband. I've been married for 2 months now, and he's just been so supportive of me and just very flexible with my schedule. That's always kind of crazy. And so just ultimately just try to have a balanced life.
I know it's tough being a woman in politics, and it's tough for the spouse. My husband would say, when people would say, how is it being married to Maylee? And he says, it's like being in a 3-ring circus, but we're only in 1 ring. So Priscilla, what's your dream goal?
Getting through the next week without, I'm just kidding, without another disaster. That would be great in the short term. Honestly, for me, you know, I think as a young kid, you're like, I have all these specific things, and a lot of it had to do with titles, right, and power. But I think for me, as I've reflected more, is how can I mentor and invest in the next generation in the midst of a million priorities that we have? How do we not just create a seat, but a bench? So just all the things that the great work that everyone's doing to invest in that APAPA is doing to invest in that is something for me that I would like to be able to do and be more intentional about it and invest, take the time.
Jinka.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I'm a really big person on making sure that, you know, we are creating a bench for the next generation of leaders. But for me, you know, the ultimate goal for me is to just to continue to be a change agent. You know, I really truly represent working families. You know, I'm all about like lifting those whose voices are marginalized, or giving a voice to those who don't have a voice, right? And so for me, if I can do that and change and impact the change intergenerationally for families, like that would mean everything for me. But at the same time, I truly charge myself with, you know, I think it's my responsibility and many people's responsibility in order to create that change. We do need to mentor others, right? We got to get other people ready so that when we are changing our titles or when we are going to retire, that we bring on people who are going to carry that torch, because it doesn't make sense that you carry the torch and then there's no one behind you, because then, you know, what's all the work for? And so creating that intergenerational change is so important to me.
Have you considered running for higher office?
You know, I just won my seat. I have 2 more years before re-elect, but you know, you know, I'm just trying to do a great job at being a public servant. You know, I always tell my community that, you know, I'm in service to them. And so running for a higher office, maybe one day if the community so choose me to do that and tap me for the position. But right now I'm really focused on, you know, being a great council member during this pandemic, really getting resources and answers out to my community and to the wider community as well. And so that's my concentration right now. And I want to do a fantabulous job at being a council member.
Lindsay.
Yeah, I'm going to have to piggyback of what everybody has said about mentorship and finding great women to build the pipeline for us, and also really building awareness within our women community and in our populations that you don't have to have that title. You don't have to have 20 years of experience. You don't have to have, understand all the ins and outs of government or be a government insider to make an impact in your community and serve in government. And so building that pipeline of diverse women that really represents California to make sure that we're serving communities the best we can is something that I signed up for and I'm focused on, and that's charging full ahead with that. And with all these great women, I'm sure we'll get there.
I like to ask this question. It's kind of a fun question, and it's a question that I've always asked myself throughout my entire career. But I'd like to ask each of you to give me what you feel are your strengths and give me where there are areas where you hope to improve on as you grow in your career. And I'll start this one with Priscilla. Gave you a hard one, Priscilla.
Where are my strengths? This pandemic and this year has really taught me that I'm truly resilient.
Good.
I'm resilient. I think that I still, and I think this is something for us also culturally, is that you still oftentimes, you might know all the answers when you walk into a room, but you're sometimes scared to speak up and to be confident about that. And something that I still struggle with is when is that opportunity to raise your voice and to make it known and also create that impact. So I think for me, that's still a challenge.
Xingtao.
Yeah, for me, I think my strength is the willingness to always learn. You know, I learn from everybody, no matter what your age or what have you. I love to just absorb information. And so I think that's my strength in regards to my, something that I'm working on and working towards is really to, collectively get my words together to make it sound more butter smooth. Always working towards that. I feel like, yeah.
Okay, Lindsay.
Yeah, I have to say, public speaking is definitely something always working on. But I think my strength is really just being flexible and having grit. And no matter what happens, nothing ever goes to plan. So no matter what happens, we have confidence, we're calm, and we make sure that we reach our goal for the day. I'd say, I guess the strength is, or weakness I need to work on is owning success and being able to vocalize and on that. I love to, bring everybody up and have community and share that success. But I think especially as a leader of the organization, we really got to own it and take credit for all the work that we're doing.
Sherry?
I would have to say that my strength is probably my ability to work really well under pressure. So grit and resiliency. I somehow always just seem to stay calm. It probably has to do with just doing a lot of meditation and yoga. And then my weakness would probably be working on my confidence of speaking up more. I think naturally I'm a very shy person, introverted person. And so working in politics and public service, you have to speak up. And so definitely that's something that I've been working on for the last 15 years.
No, I think all four of you hit a common theme that not only affects Asian American women, but affects Asian Americans, period, because the culture is not to speak up. And the culture is just to go along and to have to counter that culture that you're raised with of being quiet, just moving along, don't draw attention to yourself, is something that it's a barrier that we constantly have to deal with. I'm in this organization committee of 100, and these super fantastic, distinguished scholars and scientists and everything. And I find that they struggle. And it's amazing to me. So all of you have demonstrated that there is a theme where Asian Americans and Asian American women have to work on that ability of forcing yourself to communicate, forcing yourself to speak up, and forcing yourself to get out of your comfort zone, especially in the work space that all of you now are in. It demands a lot of great communication skills. So it's, all four of you validated that. I'd like to ask each of you now, was there any single role model in your life, whether you're growing up or in your career now, who inspired you? And I'll start with Sherry.
Yeah, I would say that my mom was an inspiration to me. She was the first progressive woman I knew. And, I just remember being a kid and she'd been in America for about 5 years, and she talked about a woman's right to choose. And that was one of her biggest push in life. And she wanted to be able to make decisions for herself. And being a Hmong woman who grew up in the mountains of Southeast Asia, no one taught her that. It came from her own fundamental values. And so I would say my mom has been my biggest role model.
Priscilla?
Probably one of my key role models coming into the labor movement is Eleni who's just a national figure who I watched go from shutting down streets with tens of thousands of people and agitating, and then the next minute walking into that boardroom to talk to those employers and negotiating out a deal that works for all. So that was really inspirational, but really just showed me that you can make people really uncomfortable, but you can also bring them together and create real change. So she's been awesome. I also call her my Mexi mommy. I also learned a lot of Pocha Español, Spanish with her, so it's been great.
Xingtao.
Yeah, same thing with SHEro. I think the Hmong people, the struggle that we have seen our parents in, that's been such an inspiration. So for me, I know that it's one person, but for me, it's got to be my mother and my father. They fled, right? They fled the war. They fled jungles with, my mother. She had an infant and a toddler, right? They're running for their lives, and she was shot. She saw all kinds of different kinds of death that no one should ever see, right? And then she was here, or they were put here brought here to the U.S. into a whole new world. They'd never seen snow before. They were dropped off in Rhode Island. Didn't even have jackets. They had to navigate all of these different things, right? Housing and how to figure out where to get money, and like the bus system. When they didn't speak the language, they didn't have any friends, right? When Hmong people were brought over to the States, they were all separated, right, to lessen the burden. And so it's just been so inspirational to really see that they not only survived, but they survived, and they were really able to create a family where they were providing happiness in the household, right? And with nothing, with no dollars, and there were 10 of us. And so it's just a huge inspiration for me whenever I think about that. I always, when I feel down and I feel like, oh my gosh, like, someone just kicked me in my stomach and I probably can't get up anymore, I think about my parents, and if they can do that and survive, and they're still alive to this day and thriving, then I feel like I can do anything. Yeah.
Lindsay.
Yeah, I'd love to take this time to thank Meili for your mentorship of so many women and helping me, and your kindness and strength has been very inspiring. And to read your book has just been a gift to hear how you paved a way forward for many women. And I think we can also relate to the story a little bit and see how we can persevere through challenges and make a place for ourselves and make such great impact. So I just want to take that time to thank you for all that you've done for the community. And then I would have to go along with the women as well as my grandma was in the internment camps and had everything taken away from her. And just to be able to see her fight to rebuild, have a sense of community, have a sense of trust, and have that strength of being knocked down as a second citizen or non-citizen and find a place in the world, graduate from college, and have a successful family and career has, whenever I need a little bit of strength, I also think about my grandma. She's was the heart of the family, and so I carry that with me all the time.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you. I'm honored. I'm just honored. Thank you. This is a fun thing that I do in my panels, because it really requires us to look into ourselves of who we are today. And young women who are watching this, and older women too who are watching this, like to know what makes you tick. So I want to ask each of you, what are three words that will define who you are today? And I'll start with Xingtao.
Who I am today, three words. Mother. I'm like,
this is hard.
Words. Okay, so mother, that's one. Mentor and mentee. Those are going to be my lifelong, defining of me, of who I am. Lifelong mentor and lifelong mentee, and of course, mother.
Lindsay.
I have to say that I hope when people think about me that they think that I'm kind and strong and had a ton of grit.
Priscilla.
That I'm shy. Just kidding. I'm really just kidding. That I'm sassy. No, that I'm really a sister in the struggle. That's a couple of words, so I just go by that.
Sherry.
I would say that I am pragmatic, resilient, and very humble.
And I think we're close to running out of time, but I know that all of you represent so much of women are striving to be today, or else, I mean, so appreciate hearing from all of you. But before we close, if you could give advice to young women college graduates who want to be like you, what would your advice be? And I'll start with Lindsay.
Yeah, just keep going. Everybody gets knocked down, and you just got to keep getting back up, and you'll find your place. You just got to keep searching, stay true to yourself, and keep at it.
Priscilla?
For me, it's get uncomfortable. If you want change, you got to build relationships that you don't have within your traditional circles. Dig in.
Sing Tao?
For me, I always tell folks like you're on your own timeline. You know, right out of high school, in high school I took all honors classes, was accepted to college, but decided to take a break. You know, from there I went to community college, and then went to UC Berkeley, and you know, just really you're on your own timeline. You know, don't compare yourself to others, although always have a goal, and you know, just make sure you have your mentors. You know, always reach out, because there's so many people out there, so many great people who are just wanting to mentor. So ask.
Sherry, there you go.
Hey, I would say that every experience comes with a lesson. And so no matter how hard things get, something good is going to come out of it if you learn a lesson from it. So, you know, keep going. Don't give up. We've all been there. Yep.
I think that in closing, I have to say that all four of you exemplify this generation of young Asian women compared to the days where in the 70s when I was just starting out. And it's so exhilarating to me to see how far Asian women have advanced in terms of defining who they are. In terms of my own experience, and I see that each of you have done that, it's so important to define ourselves, not just as Asian American women, but as just the best that there could be in our profession, and not to allow anyone to stereotype us or to corner us to be anything less than we are. And all four of you have done that in your career. And I think your sharing of your experiences hopefully will be enriching and really help this second generation of women who are climbing the ladder, who want to be where all four of you, and understand that all four of you are what I consider in the midterm of your life, that there's so much more to accomplish. And I really thank all of you for participating in this panel, and for helping APAPA launch this leadership training for women, and to benefit our next generation of women who are coming up the pipeline. Everything that you've shared with us is just so memorable and so appreciated. So I think with that, our panel is ended, and I want to see if there she is, Susanna.
Hi, Meili. Thank you, and thank you, panelists, all great women leaders, for your insightful discussion as well as advice to all our future leaders. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Here at APAPA, we know that Simon Peng is one of our generous supporters as well as a great friend and leader. In fact, he is on a national board, and he's actually national board of APAPA organization, and he's, I think, involved in many worthwhile projects that APAPA is involved with. He's also the executive vice president and co-founder of the Royal Business Bank, and serves as the president of the U.S. Sino Friendship Association. Besides having extensive international experience in banking and finance, Simon received several appointments by our state leaders, including former Governor Jerry Brown and California Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon. We're happy that Simon will help us with the introduction of our next keynote speaker.
It is my honor to introduce my friend, Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis, as our keynote speaker. Born and raised in California, she is the first woman elected to this position. From 2010 to 2013, Ms. Kounalakis served as President Barack Obama's ambassador to the Republic of Hungary. In 2014, Governor Jerry Brown appointed her to chair the California Advisory Council for International Trade and Investments. Prior to her public service, Ms. Kounalakis was president of one of California's most respected housing development firms, AKT Development, where she worked for 18 years and recognized as one of the capital region's most prominent businesswomen. Passionate about early childhood development, Ms. Kounalakis served as a member of California's First Five Commission and the California Blue Ribbon Commission Autism. She graduated from Dartmouth College in 1989 and earned her MBA from UC Berkeley's High School of Business. Ms. Kounalakis also holds an honorary doctorate of laws from the American College of Greece. Welcome to our program, Lieutenant Governor Kounalakis.
Welcome, Lieutenant Governor Kounalakis. Hi. Thank you for joining us. I know this morning you're very busy, and just want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to participate and to give your keynote address to our audience.
So much. Again, it's wonderful to be here with APAPA. Thank you so much for including me in your wonderful virtual gathering. I am always honored and proud to be with Treasurer Fiona Ma, Controller Betty Yee, my friends, my colleagues. The three of us represent the first time in California history that three of our constitutional officers have all been women at the same time. And we feel, I think, a very special bond because of that. I also want to recognize some of your awardees and honorees today. Of course, Regina Yin, congratulations to you on your SHEro award, to you and to your wonderful husband, Cece. I understand that your extraordinary property in Vacaville has suffered some damage as a result of the complex. I'm so sorry to hear it. I will be on my way in a few minutes up to one of the evacuation centers in Sonoma to visit with some of those who've been affected at very difficult times for us in our beautiful state, with now 2 of the 5 most devastating wildfires in the history of California happening right now. I was asked to talk a little bit about my own family story because, of course, it is a California story. And like so many of the members of APAPA, my family story starts outside of the United States. My grandmother in Greece, Katerina was her name, is a great inspiration to me. Although I never met her, she passed away right before I was born. She never left the village in Greece where she was born and raised, or the village next door where she moved when she married my grandfather. She never learned how to read. She never learned how to write. And yet she had this vision, this idea of this extraordinary place called America. And when my father at age 14 insisted that he wanted to come to America, she was the one who supported it and let him go, knowing she might never see him again. And in fact, only ever saw my father one more time before she passed away. My father came to California with all of the energy and ambition of so many of our extraordinary immigrants in this state. He worked as a farm worker in the Central Valley, and he was brought in by the generosity of a local family who encouraged him to go to college. And he ended up going to Sacramento State University, getting an education, starting a business, having a family, and really those opportunities that he had of going to college and starting a business are what changed the trajectory of my life as well. So I became the first in my family to go to a four-year college and graduate. I came back, did a few other things, but eventually started working with my father in housing in the Sacramento region, and we worked together for about 18 years. So when I think about the public policy issues that really drive me the most, they are connected to this family history, this immigrant history that I have. One, education. As lieutenant governor, I sit on the boards of the California State University system and the University of California. If you add the number of students of those two public university systems, along with our community colleges, we have 3 million students currently enrolled in public higher education in the state of California. It's a lot. And so many of these families, so many of these people, of these students, are making their way down this pathway of the California dream, just like my family has. The other thing that I am very passionate about is helping small and medium-sized businesses in California. So much opportunity comes here because you don't have to be somebody in order to be able to start your own business, work hard, grow that business, and create more opportunity for your families. So ensuring that California businesses have that opportunity and that the state is aware of the challenges that small and medium-sized businesses have is something else that I'm extremely passionate about. And then finally, I think some of you know, and I couldn't hear the introduction, but I was a United States ambassador. I was the U.S. ambassador to Hungary. And when Hillary Clinton swore me in, I turned to her and I said, you know, Madam Secretary, my grandmother never learned to read. She let my father come to America, and in one generation, you know, and what would she have thought if she had known that her granddaughter would come back as the first Greek American woman to be a U.S. ambassador and be sent back to Europe by the President of the United States? It was a profound experience for me to represent my country. One of the issues that I worked hard on was energy security issues. And a big part of this helps you understand the dynamics that move around energy. And I am so proud of our state of California for the way that we are leading every single day on combating climate change and transitioning to renewable energy. This is a national security issue. Having energy independence is enormously powerful for the United States. And of course, most importantly, we can lead the world in technologies that will allow us to use energy resources that will not create these circumstances of climate change, the effects of which we are feeling right now as we speak. So I want to thank everyone again for inviting me. I just had a shot backstage to Johnny and his team, and I just have to tell you, behind the scenes, the people who are putting this program together are doing a wonderful job. This is no small task. And to all of you who are home and who are dealing with a three-pronged crisis in our state right now. First, we have the health crisis of COVID-19. Secondly, we have the economic outfall of shutting down the state, shutting down the country in order to limit the spread of COVID. And third, of course, these devastating wildfires. But if there's one thing that I know about our state, And it is a state where 27% of our population was born outside of the United States. 27% of our population are immigrants. One thing I know is that we are capable of meeting whatever challenges come our way. And with that, I would also like to mention some very exciting news about our own Senator Kamala Harris. I'm sure you all have been watching that she has been selected to serve as the vice presidential candidate on the Democratic ticket. She is a very close friend of mine. She is a member of the Southeast Asian community, with her mother being an immigrant from India. And she exemplifies so well the community of Californians that has that first generation that we are, that has grown up in this state, where we are all accepted, no matter where we came from, and no matter what our family lineage was. We can come here and achieve great things. And I am sure you are all as proud as I am of Senator Harris. And it's a very exciting moment in American history to have her on this historic ticket. So with that, I see it is 11:01. I want to keep you on your schedule for the rest of your day. Let me just say again, I am so grateful to APAPA. I have had the opportunity now to participate in your programs so many times I can't even remember at this point, and I take every opportunity to be with you and thank you for all of your contributions to the beautiful state of California. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. That was such a moving story about your family, immigrant story of your family. And I think that, that actually translates to a lot of our family stories. So thank you so much. And then also, of course, your advice on how we do need to do things as a country to support that story, right? And continue growth of our, the American dream as our parents and grandparents see it. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'll see you all next time, I hope in person.
Yes, definitely. I hope so too. Okay, now, as you can see, we have many strong and wise women serving our communities and the public in many different ways. Some of us enjoy being in a spotlight, while some of us prefer to lead in less visible light. Right now, I'd like to turn this segment over to my co-host, Marcia Galango, and she's gonna talk about a very special person. Marcia?
Thank you, Susanna. Now we are coming to the exciting part, is to present a special award to an extraordinary person. It is APAPA's first SHEro Award, and it will be presented to Regina Yin. So you must be wondering, what is SHEro? SHEro is a woman hero. And SHEro are the ones who are usually doing a lot of work for others, for the community, for the betterment of society, and yet not with the intention of bringing acknowledgement to themselves, because this is who they are. They just want to serve and to contribute. And there's no other person that we can think of to give the first SHEro Award to Regina Yin. I personally know Regina for many, many years already. And we met each other at another organization, CAPA, Chinese Political Association, when she was serving on the board. And I find out that she was already building her McDonald's business with her husband, C.C. Yin. And yet, she was spending at least 18 years of her life as a social worker. And she brought her knowledge and expertise and her heart and her love to build her business. And then 20 years ago, she and CC started the APAPA, Asian Pacific Islander Public Affairs Association. And we can see how Regina had devoted her life in serving others, in engaging the API community and people in the community to learn, to be leaders, to serve the public affairs. And before we give Regina the award, we have prepared a short video on Regina's life.
Hello, I'm Regina Yin. I'm honored to receive this SHEro award, and I'm so excited to be here today. I was asked to share my personal story. I was born in China. I experienced the hunger, and I experienced the risk, and running into air shelter. So life was very hard. And I grew up in Taiwan, and my parents didn't feel Taiwan it was a very safe place due to political uncertainties. So they saved enough money and they gave me one-way ticket and to go to the United States to pursue my graduate school education. I became a social worker for 20 years and worked in mental health and geriatric medical services and child protective services. And I worked as a nanny and in a doctor's family. So I managed. And then after about 20 years career in social work, and my husband was laid off. He was looking for opportunities. And he wanted to get into McDonald's because he, as an engineer, liked their operation system. Of course, it was out of the question. And after the training, and he managed to purchase a very rundown restaurant in Oakland, in the worst neighborhood, Eastbound Mall. The restaurant was so bad, and we had to pay a premium price. So with our real estate investment, we were totally broke. But the equipment was okay. He can fix it as engineer. People is difficult. There were drug, selling problems. There were prostitution, and they were stealing. There were lawsuits, and there were boycotts. So finally, until we managed to work together with NAACP and Hispanic groups and formed scholarship and a lot of service programs like a Martin Luther King speech contest, and managed to finally turn the restaurant around and start making money. In Solano County, we again not only able to grow the business, and we also organized more diversity groups, and following African American and Hispanic Association, we formed Asian McDonald Operators Association. We women formed WON, Women Operator Network. It helped actually McDonald's business in terms of marketing, planning, and customer satisfaction and product development. So it was a good time. What we have learned, from all the previous experiences, we feel alone you cannot succeed, and you got to engage in the community. And that was when, in 2001, CC developed concept, established the APAPA, Asian Pacific Islander Americans for Public Affairs. And we would like to use our experience to develop the next younger generation. So hopefully they will be more successful. And today, APAPA has grown, and in the last 19 years, and many chapters. And we are committed and to facilitate, do whatever we can to make the organization strong and make a difference in our society. Thank you.
As we can see from the video about Regina, how inspiring, how touching. And we see her path, an immigrant who worked hard and accomplished a lot. And yet, she served. She is a woman of humanity. She served humanity, and she's humble, she's generous, and she wants to empower others. And I'm sure you agree with me that Regina is a SHEro. And a few other leaders will agree with me, and they are going to send their acknowledgement to Regina. So the first one is Fiona Ma. Fiona Ma is California State Treasurer, and she's going to send Regina her acknowledgement and remark.
Hi, Regina, and hi, Marcia. Great to see you, and thank you for hosting this first ever women's event. As many of you know, I believe that this is the year of the woman again, and I just wanted to first off send my heart to Regina and Cece. I'm glad that they are both safe. And that we are still able to be here doing this here today telephonically. But thank you, Regina, for being a SHEro, for being one of my role models, for being an amazing community leader. Like Marcia said, you're always so generous and compassionate, and just one of these treasures in our community. So congratulations, and I look forward to seeing you all in person very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fiona. And our next leader who wants to acknowledge Regina is our California Assembly member, Rob Bonta. And Rob, you're on.
Hey everyone, I'm Rob Bonta, and I serve in the California State Assembly representing Oakland, Alameda, and San Leandro. And I'm deeply honored to be the first Filipino-American state legislator in the history of California. Congratulations to APAPA on the success of the first annual API Women's Leadership Conference. Women have been at the helm of every great movement, driving us forward as a society, ever closer to equality, equity, and progress. And it's always appropriate that we recognize their many contributions. Today, I have the distinct honor and privilege of presenting this year's SHEro Award to the one and only Regina Yin. Regina is a founding member of APAPA. Her leadership and example of goodwill has made APAPA what it is today, a strong pillar of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. During a time when racism and discrimination often prevented communities of color from succeeding in business, Regina and her husband Cece organized the Asian McDonald's Network in the hopes of helping other ambitious entrepreneurs succeed. Many times it is the work that goes on behind the scenes unnoticed that is responsible for the success. Today, we are proud to honor Regina's hard work, generous spirit, and exceptional leadership. On behalf of the state of California, thank you, Regina, for your service to our community. And congratulations on this well-deserved honor.
Thank you, Rob. We surely agree with you, and also Fiona and many other people, that Regina is a true leader and a true SHEro for us. So right now, we are going to present to Regina APAPA's first SHEro Award.
Congratulations,
Congratulations. Regina, this is an award that's given to you, and to honor your legacy, we are going to name this award APAPA Regina Yin SHEro Award. And from this year on, every year, you're going to choose another SHEro to give this award to. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for all the inspiration, Regina.
Thank you.
The inspiration for the creation of this award. You certainly deserve it.
I think the clock
is very, very fitting. And excuse me, we have our history, we have our future. Time moves and it gives us a memory for our past. Time moves forward, give us future past. So this time clock, it means a lot for women. We have come a long way. And in fact, 100 years ago, we were not allowed to vote. And so now moving forward, we have so many distinguished leaders today with us. And I am so touched and moved that they are all with us here, share their knowledge of their leadership, their achievement, and also guide us for our future paths. And California, we women really can do it. And in 1920, August 26, the 19th Amendment was put in place. And we have done so much. And thanks to all the women before us, and we will continue the work. So thanks very much, and I'm so honored. And we have all the way Lieutenant Governor and Eleni, Kounalakis, and Fiona Ma, Betty Yee, you name it, and all the way to the national level. So we have a good models. So thank you very much for APAPA, Tri-Valley Chair, Marcia, and the many staff, volunteers. And this is incredible. And I don't know, I'm a little bit kind of like, a little bit confused. And as you know, we had a big fire and a ranch. And it was the longest day on Wednesday when we had to get up and evacuate. And Vacaville City was filled with ashes and smoke, and you get turned away by the hotels. You have no place to stay, and the people you see on the street, and the people you meet, and everybody looked just confused and scared. And one advice personally I want to share with you, please do leave your home line phone on. And there are people, they do not answer line phone. When the emergency alert came in, and you gotta get out. If you do not answer your line phone, you get stuck. And do follow the direction. Evacuate, just do it. I think it was very, very agonizing when you have to leave your home, not knowing what's going to happen. And when you see the red ball and all the sky gray and hopeless, anxious, worried, scared, but follow the direction. Unfortunately, our human resources are very thin. And ultimately, I don't think they were able to rescue or save a lot of people's homes. And it's very unfortunate. And Cici and Regina, we consider ourselves a little bit better, fare better. We didn't have the total loss, even though partial loss hurts. And I think the nature strikes. When Pandala hit, they do not discriminate. They will come after you. You get lucky or you get not so lucky. And it makes me think, why we human beings discriminate? Why we women in the last 100 years struggle And we will continue to struggle. And I think my heart aches that we have a lot of work to do. And we need to get together. And we need to work with our leaders. And we, each individual, has a responsibility to do your job and to be engaged, to be helpful to others, to collaborate with others. And we should consider the welfare of the whole world, peace, friendship, and we should really achieve much more in this world. And I am very grateful. In range is always, something belongs to the community. And even though it's our home, but I think we had many community activities and belongs to APAPA. And we suffer partial loss, but our heart and soul, they are at in range. And 2 days later, I told Marcia, I told Yan, I do want to be here. And I want to guarantee you that Cici and me, we will rebuild. And Yin Ranch is beyond just a place, just a structure. And I think they can be replaced. They can be rebuilt. But the spirit we need to preserve. And we want to continue on. And I'm grateful. I'm so comforting when we suffer the loss. And at a critical time, the family, the friends, the community, they all came on board with us. And your love, your message, your blessing. And today, I want to take the opportunity to thank every one of you. And it's not time for me to cry. It's time for us to get together. And I'm so grateful. I'm so lucky. I think we need to move forward. And after 100 years, the 19th Amendment, we women, it's women's time. We should continue now and to help. And look at our leadership. It's incredible. Many of us are immigrants and the first generation and working very hard. And I have a personal story. I'm not sure if I should talk about my personal story right now. Okay. And I want to share just because we came to this country 50, 60 years ago. And my husband and I first started in Seattle. And I was really trained social worker. And I depended on my income as a nanny for my room and a board, just like many immigrants. You manage it, you work hard, and you complete what you are about to do. As a social worker, I was very happy to be able to help people. And then when Cici was laid off, and at a middle age with 3 kids, and you got to do something. My wage was not enough to support the family. So he was determined he wanted to get into food industry. And he was very impressed by McDonald's management system. And as immigrant, newcomer, in the 80s, there was no chance. And I don't mind to share with you, with determination, he was able to secure his very first McDonald's in Oakland at the bankruptcy court, and with an African-American judge literally ordering McDonald Corporation, why can't you give this immigrant a chance to start a McDonald business? Put him through the training. So things happened. He was able to overcome all the obstacles, and we managed to be qualified, but was given broken, run-down McDonald restaurant in East Oakland, to be specific, Eastmont Mall shopping area. And as an engineer, I think we finally survived, and I want to share with you how we survived. When you have a broken restaurant, when you were given the opportunity, we felt like second-class citizen. And Cici, my husband, used to tell me, well, maybe you are like a second-class citizen. And, you are not white. So why do you think you deserve to have the best? If you got an opportunity, you're lucky. So we have an opportunity. So we got to make it. And we didn't have any help. And McDonald Corporation didn't care about us. And he said, die or live, I'm going to turn this restaurant around. Even though through bankruptcy court, he paid a premium price, and you don't make money. He said, doesn't matter, and we'll go through this. So he fixed the equipment, and he fixed the cash drawer and all the buildings. That was not hard. The most difficult was the people. In East Oakland, we have more people selling drugs, prostitution, and gang members. And this particular McDonald's we purchased, and I have to let you know, it's not just an ordinary, normal McDonald's restaurant. It was more like a gang congregate place. And I used to tell people, the employees, you think they're selling Coca-Cola, but actually, I think they're selling the other kind of Coke, and maybe like cocaine. So there was no motivation to work. And when we came in, it was the most difficult, and to work with the people. And we were accused as a racist, and we were accused we discriminate. And so we were bombarded with lawsuit and a boycott. And finally, we had to do something. And I invited the school principal, the teacher, to help me to give new employee orientation. And we joined NAACP, and we became honorary member, and whatever it takes. And we joined the local Chamber of Commerce, and we try to have a dialogue with the city mayor, government officials to protect the business, whatever it takes. We were just actively engaging our community. We paid the price, and we didn't make money. We sponsored Martin Luther King speech contest. We organized all the schools, and we organized whatever local community, do whatever we can. And honestly, from a social worker, my heart really wanted to help young people. I think it was just a bad thing for young people not to look at the opportunity in front of us. So endlessly, and I try to be a counselor basically, and I try to talk to the community. But I think if you work with others, and the people will try to work with you. So we managed to turn around the restaurants, and I'm proud to say, as an immigrant, as a kind of like second-class citizen given the opportunity, but that particular restaurant became most outstanding restaurant. Our sale came up, and the customer, they understand, they work with us, they help us. So outstanding sales, outstanding customer satisfaction, and then we received Ronald Award, we received Golden Arch Award, and thank God you do the right thing, good thing will happen to you. So it was during the early, I think early 90s, because racial violence, Rodney King in Koreatown, Los Angeles, and a protest, civil rights movement, and it happened. The same thing happened in Oakland. So we begged McDonald Corporation for us to move. And I want to share with you, and it was wonderful, the corporation finally acknowledged our contribution to the corporation. And they gave us permission to relocate because our restaurant basically literally was on fire. And so after we moved, we gathered together and almost like restart again. However, this is a golden opportunity. We are excited. And that's when we start getting good restaurant and making some money. And women at that time in McDonald, as a spouse of someone who initially came into the system, you are not recognized as independent franchisee. And I want to let you know, I could not engage in any legal paperwork. I could not represent franchisee on any kind of committee or decision-making process. So we started WON, Women Operators Network. So ladies, this is what you need to do. And me as a spouse, I'm able to have legal rights. I'm able to participate in the budget planning committee. I'm able to do marketing. And I learned a lot. And subsequently, we also followed African American Association, Hispanic Association, and we formed Asian McDonald Operators. Then we have Women Operators Network. You know, to collaborate together and working together and with the same focus, same purpose, actually the ethnic marketing started. And McDonald is one of the progressive corporation. And after a few years, business-wise, like many other corporations, Coca-Cola and everything, it's a good thing. So people have to realize diversity make you successful. So with all the diverse groups, and we managed to elevate McDonald's company sale and a profit all the way up. And I think I just want to say something. I know time is limited. In my life, what I have done, what we have achieved to become today like we are, and we are no longer in the McDonald's system treated like second-class citizen. In fact, I feel good, I feel proud of our achievement. And I think to collaborate with others is the secret of success. If you work alone, you will lose. Please remember that. And also, it's important, particularly Asian culture, we think about ourselves first. We have to think about really others first. Engage yourself, participate. Civil engagement, follow some of the successful leaders. And your return will be surprising to you. And because what we have learned, and we want to gather all the resources, and APAPA was established 2001. Now, 19 years later, I'm proud to say that APAPA, thanks to Yan, the staff, and all members of APAPA, 32 chapters, you have done a tremendous job. And you today sponsor this Women Leadership Conference. And it's great work. And we should continue. And I think APAPA, this is only the beginning. We have a lot of unfinished work to do. For me, to conclude, our rebuild in range is not going to hit me. It's not going to knock me down. And we will continue to build APAPA. And Cici and Regina, we are committed. And I can let you know, our heart and soul are with you today, before, and forever in the future. Thank you very much for being here with me.
Thank you, Regina. Regina, come to the middle.
All these elected officials recognizing you. We have Senator Shannon Grove. We have California State Controller Betty Yee.
Okay.
And California Treasurer Fiona Ma.
Fiona.
And the Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis.
These are great ladies. I love them.
Like you're getting the award. Hand the award to her. There you go. Push. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regina.
Quite inspiration. You persevere. That's the key message there. Thank you so much. Collaboration, diversity, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, wow. Okay. So, Regina's story, I mean, we're in awe. I think I speak for everyone here, say that we're heartbroken about what happened to the Yins and the Yin Ranch. But we can also see that, I mean, I'm in awe of the Yins, that they're still thinking about their community and actually giving of themselves even during this, devastation to their own family. And we can see why Regina Yin is the first recipient of the SHEro Award. So yes, wow. Okay, now it's time for our second panel, and you're in for a treat. You're in for a treat. For this panel, we have two elected officials who will tell us the good, the bad, and perhaps ugly experiences in not only running for office, but also in daily governance. We had 4 actually officials scheduled, But unfortunately, just like all the different situation that's happening, right? All the crisis that's going on, unexpected things happen. And so unfortunately, Councilmember Stephanie Nguyen and Senator Lening Chang couldn't be with us today. We will really miss them, but we still have to, officials who's gonna really talk to Mona and answer, give you an insight of how being an elected official is for an API woman. And who best to moderate this panel but another powerful leader, Mona Paskill-Rogers. Mona has a long history of leading both by supporting others, such as her past positions in the office of former State Assembly member John Garamendi and as the legislative director for former State Treasurer Kathleen Brown. But she's also very adept at leading in a very visible role, as she was the acting lieutenant governor in 2009 and currently as the head of California public policy for Facebook. Mona, we're so excited that you're moderating our next panel.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Susanna, thank you for everything that you've done. Regina, oh man, you speak to my heart. And all of us are inspired by your, as they say, true grit, but the way that you give and the grace that you have. This women's conference is because of a dream that you and Cece had, because of all that you went through. So thank you so much. And to the team who put this on, you guys are rock stars. Well, you're in for a treat because we have two phenomenal women elected officials who are going to join us. And we're going to do, for my Pacific Islander friends, we're going to talk story today. So we're going to talk a little bit about political lessons learned. But in that, we're going to talk about some of the struggles, but also the triumphs. So I am super thrilled to be joined by the very fabulous sister friend, State Treasurer Fiona Ma, and Fremont's Mayor Lily May. I'd like each of you to introduce yourselves, and talk a little bit about, how you got here and how you made the decision. I mean, Fiona, you're the 34th treasurer. You're the first woman of color and the first certified CPA to hold the position. That's huge. Mayor, you were the Fremont's first mayor and the first minority mayor in Fremont's 63-year history. That's amazing. So Fiona, let's start with you, girl. Let's talk a little bit about what made you decide to run.
All right, so my father just came home and my dog may start barking, so I apologize. But, I never thought I would be in elected office. My parents were both born in China, came to the United States for the American dream, wanted my brother and I and my sister to be one of the lead professions, a lawyer, engineer, accountant, or a doctor. So I am an accountant, my brother's an engineer, my sister is now a doctor, a chiropractor. So my parents are like finally happy. However, I do think, Lily reminds me that her and I both served on the Girl Scouts, Brownies and Girl Scouts. We came from the East Coast, and that was a big thing. And I really do believe if you want to run for office, joining the Brownies or the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts is, hi, Dad. Say hi, Dad. Dad. I'm on a Zoom call right now, so okay, all right. Come on over there. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, this is life in the Ma household. But I do think serving, number one, Girl Scouts, Brownies, it teaches you as women that you get awarded. We get our badges, right, if we do good deeds. Unlike men or little boys who are taught to go and get a newspaper route or go shovel, the snow out of a driveway or mow someone's lawn for money, women, we weren't really brought up that way. And so I was also really good at selling Girl Scout cookies. And if you're good at selling Girl Scout cookies, you may have a life in politics, because like selling Girl Scout cookies, You have to go around your neighborhood, right? You have to know your neighbors, go door to door. You have to go and sell the cookies. Then you have to deliver the cookies. You have to collect the money. And then you have to keep in touch, right? The rest of the year. And they're always like, hey, when are you going to sell your cookies? It's kind of like an election, the same thing. So did that. Went to school in the Rochester Institute of Technology for accounting, started with one of the big 8 accounting firms. My parents are really, really happy. And then after 5 years, left to start my own practice. And that's when I got involved in politics at the age of 28. I became president of the Asian Business Association, and all of a sudden I was thrust out there having to advocate for more business opportunities for women and minority business owners. And I started to understand, number one, there weren't a lot of people like me in government. Number two, there weren't a lot of women. And number three, even though small businesses are the backbone of our economy, it is so hard to run a small business here in the state of California. And I became that voice for them. I still am. This is my 4th elected position, and I still have that passion for small businesses. Even during this time, we have pivoted to creating resource guides for small business, nonprofits, individuals, seniors, food, and tax relief. So just trying to do everything we can to educate and make sure that all these PPP and EIDL programs are accessible to small business owners, because they really, really are hurting at this time. So I look forward to today, but that's just kind of a summary. And again, thank you to Regina and Cece. They formed APAPA in 2001. I got elected to the Board of Supervisors in 2002, and they've always been behind me. And as you can see, their mission has been accomplished, because we do see more Asians in the legislature, more Asians as constitutional officers, and we owe a debt of gratitude to the two of them and APAPA for allowing me to be here. And I'm sure Lily, they're just so supportive of everyone running for office, regardless of your gender and regardless of your party affiliation. So
Great. Thanks, Fiona. Mayor, want to tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So thank you for this opportunity. First, I want to congratulate Regina for being a SHEro to so many of us in the community. And we're so blessed to have the opportunity to be able to participate in these conversations and programs. And I also want to thank you, Mona, for being a great role model for all of us, as well as so many of the other speakers. I've had the opportunity to work with many of them over the past few years. I have been a resident of Fremont for 26 years, and I got involved much like many other people do because of something that's important, and not just the Girl Scout cookies, though I did sell Girl Scout cookies, and I agree with you on that background in terms of getting out there in your community. I was also an orchestra and sold hoagies. I think my neighbors probably thought I would be a pro at precinct walking one day, because I even delivered hoagies in the snow before. So you get to deliver all different methodologies, and you figure out your way to get out there. I think my neighbors were afraid to open the door because I'm selling something again. But it taught you persistency and creativity and perseverance. But I got involved with my children in schools, and I think that one of the roles that I'm very proud of is to be a mother. I have 2 MIFs, Made in Fremont products. They are now 23 and 19. And so one is now working in Seattle. My daughter is working as a software engineer for Amazon in Seattle, and my son is in college. And I got involved when my children were going to school and we had an overcrowding problem. And rather than just going to complain about the issue, which many people do, and you can go and cry and yell and scream, but I went and pulled their board policies and documents and made a presentation. And it was the only thing that passed the committee that had been meeting for 2.5 years. But when I got to the committee, it got rejected, and they're like, give up. And I was like, that's really not my style. And so I went and started writing the school board, and I explained to them the situation, and I was like, okay, you may not want to hear from me, but this is a chance for me to express our concerns. And so I got to present to them. They rejected me. And then the first day of school, I ended up on the front page of the local newspaper. And I was joking with them that you might see me on TV next. But by chance, my daughter did get into the school because of different things that happened. But Derek had stopped the story, but rather than just look at it, and it wasn't about my child and the situation, it was about the policies and things that I felt could change. So I got involved with school PTA and school site council. And as my children got older, there was opportunities to participate. And one of the pivotal moments was talking about school reboundaries. And a lot of this, when it comes to children, I will say, having served on school board and other roles, nothing gets more emotional than your family, be it fur family or your children. And so in that case, I just felt that it was important for us to have a communications and dialogue with the school board in a positive way, not just blaming anyone for the policies, but actually being part of the solution. So years later, then I ran for school board. And I think it's important in this dialogue and community discussions right now that we're having, that it's not just about us alone. It's about working across the aisles, across the different ethnicities, across different social boundaries, to talk about how can we bring people together. And when I was on the school board, I thought it was important we brought back the Council of Presidents. And so I served as the president for the Asian Pacific Islander School Board Members Association. And that worked closely with the Latino, Black, Native American caucuses with California School Board Associations. And when you don't see something you like there, rather than complain about it again, we say we don't have a seat at the table, then reset the table, make it something that you have a seat at, redefine it, and make it something that you're part of. And so I have to thank California School Board Associations for allowing us to do that and to be part of the conversation with their board. And as my children grew up, and now as I mentioned that they're older, I felt that my background originally, just to let you know, was more in technology. So I had been a product manager, I was a worldwide sales controller, and I ran a trade association preventing counterfeiting for high-tech goods. So not quite the traditional background. And so part-time, I'd be sitting there at the soccer field, and then people were saying, "Did you write to me from Singapore last night?" And I literally had been running a meeting, had dinner with the clients, got on a plane, was picking up my kids after school. And so people just didn't know that, that happens. So as my kids got older, I ended up wanting to help with our city in this pivotal moment when we're going through tremendous change. And so I served on the city council. And 4 years ago, I ran as the mayor for Fremont. And I was so privileged to be able to be elected here in our city as the first woman in our city's history, the first minority and the first woman Asian mayor in our city's history. And while we were talking earlier about representation and people being at the table, and I heard people also talking earlier about how when you look around the room, you see somebody's missing. I'm sometimes so shocked when I go to these meetings, and I serve on the advisory council for a U.S. Conference of Mayors, and also I serve on National League of Cities and some of our committees. And I was surprised a couple years ago when I saw APAC's put up something for Women History Month, and I thought it couldn't be right. And I am currently, I think I'm the third large city U.S. Asian woman mayor in history of the U.S. And I think there's a fourth one, which is Mayor Guo of Bakersfield. But we have a long way to come still, and we hope to go further. And this is only happening because people like this and our conversations, we're able to uplift and bring forward the next pipeline and bench of our future leaders. So thank you for this opportunity.
That's right. Thank you. Oh, wow. Reset the table. I love that. So being the first Asian Pacific Islander woman elected to your respective positions, what are some of the misconceptions that you've faced, either from constituents, from colleagues, or opponents? Fiona, you want to start?
Well, I think people tend to underestimate us or underestimate me. It doesn't matter, that I have 3 degrees and I'm a CPA and I've been elected to 4 different offices. I still feel like they question, right? Oh, you're the treasurer? Oh, that's a big job, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's a big job, but I'm qualified to do this job, and I think I'm doing a good job at being treasurer. So I feel like men mostly talk down to me. Plus, this field, I'm the state's banker, and so I deal with a lot of bankers and a lot of financial institutions, and most of them are, men and Caucasian men. And now, because I'm the treasurer and my chief of staff, Genevieve Jopanda, is Filipina, and we go to all the meetings, they now have to invite more Asians and women to sit at the table, which I think is a good thing. So by us being here, we're quiet as Asians. We don't say a lot. We don't command a lot. But they understand when we come into a room what we are, what we represent. and what we would like to see. And like Regina said, diversity. She said, diversity makes you successful. And similarly, when we do find diversity in government, in business, in education, it's true. It changes the dynamic. But I also have to be very, very deliberate. Like, I want my office to look like the state of California. I want my commissions to look like the state of California. Any body that we convene as an ad hoc or stakeholder committee, I'm always like questioning, like, how many women? How come there's only one woman out of 12? How come there's no Asian, Latinos, African Americans? And if you're not questioning, well, then we're never going to change the status quo. And so by being here, I understand my role, but also, like Lily says, we need to open up those opportunities for other people and make sure that our environments are diverse and representative of the people that we represent here in California.
That's right. That's right. Lily?
So I absolutely agree. I know that I didn't mention when I was younger, I also was in computer science club, and I was the only girl in computer science club. And at that time, I actually ended up being the president of the club at one point. But, that was through actually Explorers, and I was actually a Boy Scout too. So I was an Explorer. So I was a Girl Scout and a Boy Scout before it was okay to be, I guess, a quote unquote a Boy Scout, or easily to be son. I know that there's a lot of impressions, and I know that my predecessors as mayors are much more statuesque, and people would say, you're the tiniest mayor, but my name in Chinese, I jokingly tell people, means Miss Tall or Miss Big, so I literally mean it. But there's a lot of impressions, and I think part of it is not just the gender aspect, but also sometimes the heritage by which we are falling into. And as an Asian woman, when I first got on as the council member or as mayor, I had 4 colleagues that were male. And I actually had someone in the public ask me, you're the only woman. What happens if the 4 guys don't want to listen to you? And you're sitting there going, okay, what do you mean? But you're trying to explain in a way that you can understand. And the best way I could give it as an explanation, everybody has a mother, a daughter, a sister, a wife. And I was joking, and I said, I have a husband and son. Sometimes they don't get the choice, and I imagine it'll be the same for them. So, but more so than that, I think it's important not just to tell people that you're able, it's to come prepared, it's to come and demonstrate it, to actually show the credibility. I feel, especially as the first in some of these categories, you don't want just to be there as a token representative. You want to show that you've earned that, and that you're able to demonstrate the ability to work with others to prove that. And that's why I'm so pleased. Like I said, over the years, I've known Fiona for a couple years, and she's somebody who was, when I was on the school board side, out in our community and creating issues and awareness that are important for us in health and wellness. And so creating awareness of hepatitis B and encouraging our students to be involved. And out of that, there was one young lady who was on the student board member at that time, and she's gone on to do great things. And so we don't know always what we're doing in terms of creating a pipeline, but you are a role model. And I think that I just want to thank her for being able to show that with our community.
Wow, both of you are role models and rock stars. That's awesome. Is there a particular lesson that you've learned in politics and that you'd like to share with everyone? Who wants to go first? Fiona?
I want to loop in Mona here, since it's just the 3 of us. So,
yes.
I don't think I would have run for treasurer had you not been the lieutenant governor. And if you don't see people in a certain role, you don't think that you can do it. So, I would really love to hear, what it was like to be lieutenant governor. People always, that was one option. My husband was like, you would be a great lieutenant governor. You love the state. You just go around and promote the state. Like, was that a fun job?
Thanks, Fiona.
Yes, we want to hear from you.
Well, it was a fun job, but if we talk about lessons learned, one of the things that I learned in that office is when then Lieutenant Governor John Garamendi, who would want a special election to a congressional seat, as he was preparing to transition, he talked, I prepared the memo on who would take his place or be the interim, because the Constitution, the California Constitution, says the chief deputy will be the acting until the governor elects or nominates and the legislature approves. Well, as I was sitting there talking to John about all of the different things that, that needed to happen, and maybe he might want to use this as an opportunity to put somebody else in the office, he looked at me and said, "What do you want, Mona?" And without really thinking, it was that oldest of five Filipina kind of sometimes, maybe not thinking. I went, "Well, I want it." Exactly. And without blinking, without thinking, he said, "You got it. This is yours." So the lesson is, take a chance. When someone offers you something, go for it, do it. So that was that. But I literally walked out of the office after going, "Oh my God, did I really just say that?" Because part of it is maybe there's somebody else that's better. And that's a lesson that I think I've had to face my whole life. And that is, yes, I can do it. But there is, we all struggle with the confidence sometimes. And he, though, at that moment, took any doubt away from me. So the lesson here is, people, work for folks who can support you and will help your dreams.
Yeah. And so you and I served, or we still serve on California Women Lead.
Yes.
And we try to get women into the pipeline, get them appointed to gubernatorial commissions. But so many times when you ask a woman, they'll say, "Well, can I do it? I'm not sure. What are the qualifications? Let me think about it. Let me go talk to my family. Let me think about it." And it takes a long time sometimes to get women to even step up and apply for a position. And as Lily knows, running for office, I think Lily and I are kind of the same way. We're like, "Well, what are you going to do next?" "Yeah, of course I'm going to run for mayor. Of course I'm going to run for this." And that's where men are, used to stepping up. Even if they're not qualified, they'll always say, "Oh, I'm in." And the women are like, "I don't know. Okay, let me get back to you." But by that time, a lot of people are, already endorsed, and they already have a horse in the race. And so as women, we have to be more confident. We have to know what we want. We have to tell people what we want, and also build that team around you. Because if you're going to wait for people to nominate you as you go up the ladder, trust me, not that many people are going to nominate you, because other people want that position. So you have to go nominate yourself, right? And I think as we get older, we're all kind of in the same age range. Yes. We do have more confidence. We don't have to wait for people to, to prop us up anymore. And we're just, we're there, like we're here, we're in our 50s. I mean, I think the 50s are the best. Because I no longer really care a lot about what society, says about me. I know what I'm doing. I sleep well at night. I try to do the right thing. And so it's great to be in your 50s, I think.
Well, I think from that perspective, I think that you have to be you. You are, I guess, I've seen the slogan, "Be beautiful." Be you. And the sense that I have a former school board member that used to work with me, and Ivy Wu, and she'd say, "No one can out you. You're yourself, and you're the best version of you." And there's a reason why. Sometimes I think you were talking earlier about how you don't feel the confidence. And I've heard that when you look at jobs and applications, women will have 9 out of 10, and they'll be like, "Wait, should I qualify? I'm missing something." And gentlemen can sometimes have 6, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, no problem." And the confidence that varies a lot. And having these mentors or people that I would say support you are very important. When I ran the first couple times, I had a very non-traditional campaign. I did not have campaign consultants. And I had, I jokingly joke and said that it's my mom squad. These are women who've known me since my kids were in kindergarten, who are some of the best friends. And I really valued them, because what it told me is that, if they wouldn't vote for me, no one would. And so they're honest, brutally honest, and they really cared about the community. And we shared that commonality. There was no gain for them in terms of anything that they personally wanted, other than to see our community be better. And that made me feel more empowered and more responsible, because the fact that, I felt that I was accountable to my friends in the community, because those are the people who got me elected, and those are the people who really make a difference. You don't have to be a leader to be elected to be a leader or to have a title. I think it's having that big heart. And right now we're seeing that, in the situation I was mentioning earlier. And I'm wearing red today partially for that, is in honor of my firefighters and all the people that are out there doing this right now, and how much it means to our communities, and more so not just them, but their families for giving up the time. So, I think that we need to respect that with all of our community and to honor and build that pipeline. So thanks.
Great. How have you, obviously there's a lot of risk taking in this. How have each of you embraced risk taking? Fiona, you are constantly the person that I've known that has been like the furious, just the woman warrior. Someone says, go do this, I can't do it. Fiona Ma's the first person in line running up the mountain. How do you embrace that? I mean, what gave you that kind of will to just go for it?
Well, earlier you met my father. So growing up, I was the oldest child, and my dad kind of treated me like a son because I was always the one like, yeah, let's go wash the car. Or, yeah, I want to go to the hardware store with you. I want to, mow the lawn. Teach me how to do that. And so my dad always said, you could do whatever you want. And even if I really wasn't very good, I remember one time I tried out for the choir and I sang a solo, and my parents like, oh, my dad's like, you're great. Looking back, I probably wasn't that good, but I never knew it. And so growing up, I just was always encouraged to go and try it and do it. And they always supported me. And I think that's important, right? Growing up, if you have parents that encourage you versus saying, well, why are you doing that? That's dumb. I don't know whether you qualify or you can do that. So I think I was very, very lucky to have my dad as my biggest cheerleader. And then now, I mean, that's just kind of who I am. I'm curious. I'm super type A. I like people. I like to meet people. I like to see people. I like to get out. I like to learn. And so this job, being an elected official, really suits my personality. Since March, I've been sitting in the office a lot, Monday through Friday, which reminded me of why I don't want to be an accountant ever again, and why I work so hard to keep in elected office. But again, it's about, number one, like Lily said, finding mentors. Number two, working hard. And I do believe what Lily said, we always have a bigger, we have double standard all the time. And even in my job now, I chair 16 different boards and commissions, and I chair all of them. I get in the weeds. I want to know what they're doing. I want to sponsor legislation based on, what we're doing in the Treasurer's Office. I'm active with the National Association of State Treasurers. But that gives me the confidence, because I never want to be at a meeting where I'm saying, well, I don't know. Or, oh, let me call someone, or I'll have someone call you back. I mean, I've done about 60 webinars right now, and I can pretty much answer all the questions. But that's because I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm researching, I'm talking to people. And that's kind of, the double standards that we have, is that when they hear you and they know that you know your stuff, that you're articulate, that they understand where your heart is, then they start going, oh, okay, she's a good treasurer, right? And I think I've worked a lot harder than most treasurers. You worked with one treasurer before, but they are my team, and I want them to succeed. And that means understanding who they are, what motivates them, but also they're my family. And I always say, you need to treat your staff better than you treat your family. My husband and my father will be there regardless of, my bad moods or whatever I'm going through, but your staff, they have a choice. And so I have 430 team members at the Treasurer's Office, and I really, hope and I want them to be successful in whatever they're doing in their life. And I hope that comes through. And if they're happy, they're going to be happier at their jobs, and this Treasurer's Office is going to be, that much better. And so that's kind of, my attitude is all about the people, just making sure that we not only represent, but that we also treat people well, but that we support others and encourage them to grow in whatever capacity that they care to.
So for me, I think part of it, being elected, I know Fiona was talking about that, is not just hearing from people and say, I represent you, but also being part of it. As the mayor, we literally are building our city right now and going through major periods of change, whether it's infrastructure or in this time of COVID, delivering PPE. And so I've been able to work with so many members of our faith-based, community-based organizations. We've delivered over 100,000 face masks. We've delivered them in the rain. I've literally crawled through windows almost in delivering them. And, when we're doing our food bank and our handouts of food, we've handed out over 10,000 boxes of food. And I was saying that, I've directed traffic, and I'm happy to see the people out there. And I'm kind of excited, but also nervous that people can recognize me when I'm in plain clothes with a mask on. And they're like, hi, Mayor. And I'm like, wow, it's good to be that well known, I guess. But it's important to be part of the community. Fremont is the 4th largest city in the Bay Area with almost 250,000 people. And yet it was originally 5 small towns that came together. And that's what makes its charm, is being able to know the people and to be out there, whether it's helping Habitat for Humanity and doing the actual building of the houses, or to walking with your community members on different issues and to understand how this transportation method will change the way we commute. It really empowers us better to represent people if we understand their stories. And it's not something I could read about in a report from any study. It's really hearing from the people themselves. And I know at times it's a little bit hard because of the fact that there's still only 250,000 of them and one of me. It makes it a challenge, but I really do care. And I think that that's hopefully what comes across when we serve. But if we get the next pipeline of people and get our youth and the others involved, it makes things much better. Many hands make light work. And in this situation right now, be it the COVID or economic disparities that we're facing, or racial equity and these discussions about justice, social justice, it means us being bold, but it also means us being thoughtful. And I'm a person like Fiona who likes data, because I was also a worldwide sales controller. I like looking at data. I like arguing that, because I think that makes it more objective when I'm talking in front of a board of supervisors, other people. It's not just emotional that I'm demanding something, but it's rational and it's proven with some thought process behind it. And that makes us more credible, I think, when we're out there talking to others.
That's wonderful. I love the mom squad, and Fiona has the ma squad. You sisters are rocking it. So, just the other day, I was on a call with some interns, and they picked the questions. One of the questions they asked me is, how do I handle failure? And I thought, is this being recorded? And I shared a story when I worked for Governor Brown, and we did appointments. We did over 3,000 appointments. There was, in the first year, there was a mistake that was made, and there are some appointments that require Senate confirmation, and the paperwork wasn't sent up to the Senate in time. We have so many days to do it. And it was between Christmas and New Year's, and I got a phone call from a staff member who was crying and said, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, hold on. There's always got to be a way. Did you call? A lot of people up there. Might they make an exception because of the holidays? She said no. She goes, oh my God, am I going to get fired? I said, you're not going to get fired. But what we are going to do, and I had to, as we have to be mindful of how we lead, because I think people are always watching how we handle situations. I said, we just have to tell the governor. Now, inside, I was thinking, oh, my God, I think I might be fired, because the 2 people that we made the mistake with were friends of the governor. So we go into the office the next day, and the governor's looking down and walk in. I said, hey, I need to talk with you about something. He doesn't look up. He just continues to look down. Fiona knows Jerry well. And I thought, well, this is it, man. This is going to be a bad situation. And I had the 2 staff members who knew of the process mistake come with me, because I wanted it to be a teaching moment. And one of them was, had tears coming down, and I was like, time out, no crying. We got to get through this. And I proceed to tell him what had happened. And then without looking up, he said, whose fault is this? Who did it? And I said, my team, my fault. And he says, that's not what I asked. I asked, who did this? Whose fault? And I looked over there, and the tears were like, huge tears now. And I said, I told you, my team, my fault.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, all right, well, that's all I asked. And then he says, well, what do we do? Figure out, just give him a call and tell him, we'll take care of it in 365 days. But the lesson there is that how lucky I was to have worked for somebody who you could tell the truth, tell them about the mistake. And, I'm sure he was disappointed and upset, but he asked the question, whose fault is it? And I had learned over the years from working with great people and having phenomenal mentors that I owned it. So do you have a story about a mistake or failure that you've made while in office, and how did you handle it?
Well, I'm like you. I believe in leading by example. And if you're the boss or your name is on the door, it's your fault, ultimately. So use it as a learning lesson. How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? What were the communication breakdowns? And sometimes it's because, I didn't get everyone into the room. And so everyone was doing their own thing, and it caused a lot of confusion and a lot of angst. So we learned from those. But I always say, I will never ask someone to do something in my office that I will never do. Also on the campaign trail, Lily probably is the same way. Like, we are the first ones in the office, the last ones out. We're willing to do everything, knock on doors, stick stickers on our flyers. I was up nailing signs on the telephone poles, right? Because my two guys didn't want to get up on the ladder. But that's what it takes to be a good leader. And don't throw people under the bus. People remember that. And if you are one of those people that throw people under the bus, nobody's going to want to work for you, okay? Because you will have a reputation for doing that. And it's all about loyalty, right? In the end, John Burton, my mentor, always said, hey, remember who brought you to the dance? Number 2, be a voice for those who don't have a voice. And number 3, stand up, even if you're the only one standing. So those are the things that I strive to be like John Burton every day. It's not easy sometimes, but, ultimately, if, you shouldn't be in the kitchen if you can't take the heat.
There you go. Right on. Lily?
I would agree with Fiona on that. I think right now, especially in this climate right now, it's easier to be a bystander than an upstander. And that's sometimes a very difficult conversation that we have when we're looking at all different opinions. And, here in Fremont, and much like any across the United States, we're having a lot of polarized conversations. And one of the things that's important when we're talking with others is to be able to listen. And that sometimes I've learned, especially with the council, is that we'll have different opinions, but that's actually what makes us better in our solutions, is that we have to listen to everyone's opinions. There's times where you feel like you're on the winning end. There's times where you feel like you're losing, but the point is whether or not you made a difference and shared that discussion. And so there's times where you think like you have the methodology, you've got everything covered, but when you get to the table, you're like, okay, I didn't think of everything. And so it's that willingness to say, I can change my mind. I can come to some compromise. I can come to some agreement because I want us to move forward better together. And that sometimes there's points where you feel like you're the winner, and other times that you have to bring people along with you. And that's part of the conversation. And that's one of the things that we're facing right now on so many issues. Do we stay open? Do we stay closed? What are the testing or what are the health things? And I'm not perfect by any means, and I recognize that fully, and that I'm trying to do my best every day. And it's only because of people on my staff, people in my community, and others try to help with this that we're able to solve these problems. These are unprecedented times.
Yep. Wow. So that just leads me into this question, COVID, we've all been working from home. Some go into the office, a few, every other day. How do you achieve balance, right? Because I feel like with me, I feel like I'm on a video call all day long. And then at night, since I'm home and I'm working from home, I'm going to just stay on the computer and finish everything that I didn't do during the day. And some days I lose, what day it is. How do you achieve balance? I mean, you ladies, you sisters are doing it all, and with grace, confidence, and guts. How do you balance home and work?
Well, because we are the state's banker, over $2.6 trillion, 200, over, oh my God. $2.6 trillion goes through my bank accounts every day. We have to stay open. So I've had 100 people physically that have to be in the office because of cybersecurity, because of checks and balances, that it is just not safe to put these folks on VPN and send them home on them. So because of that, like I said, I'm the captain. I have also been in the office and my chief of staff as well since March 16th, pretty much every day, Monday through Friday. It has been difficult because my dad is home and I worry about my dad, but he is home and healthy and taking care of the 3 dogs. So it allows me to physically be in Sacramento every day. But it is hard. I have Zoom fatigue when I'm in the office, right? From 8 o'clock, I start on a daily 8 o'clock conference call every single day with my 3 financial divisions, cash management, investments, and public finance. And it goes until 5 o'clock. But at 5 o'clock, I kind of have to turn off. I have to leave. But these days, with all of the campaigns and GOTV, and everybody wants to do a Zoom call from 5 to 7 o'clock, sometimes 8 o'clock, it does get a little bit more difficult to be physically like sitting all the time. Yeah, so I'm not as thin as I used to be because usually I lose weight by walking around, running around, and I'm just kind of, sedentary too much. And it is really, really difficult. But on the weekends now, I used to do things Monday through Sunday, right? 24/7, but everything was kind of spaced out. You would work in the office a little bit, you would see people, you would go to events, and that was like my balance. And now, because I'm in the office Monday through Friday, on the weekends, I kind of understand like why people say, oh, I'm taking a weekend off, right? So the weekends are more important. Like I said, I'm watching K-dramas now. Sometimes I stay up till 1 o'clock. One week I stay up till 4 o'clock because I really wanted to finish it. And those are things I never used to do before. Sit in the house, clean the house, wash my dog, groom them, all the little things that I think people, do on the weekends. I just never did. And so now I'm doing it.
Awesome. Lily?
So I am not the best example, I think, of balancing. I am in my office right now, and I know that when I kicked off my campaign a couple of weeks ago, one of my speakers, a colleague, was saying, do I get her a tent or a sleeping bag? And so I feel like the Seinfeld episode where I sometimes sleep in the file cabinet. But, I think that what helps balance me is that I do have a family, and I have to thank my son. Sometimes he'll call me and be like, is it time to pick you up, to make sure you're leaving? And that he reminds me, and my friends remind me, like, to take a break. It's hard because there's so many things going on, and there's constant needs within our community. And I think that at times with social media, there's pros and cons. It used to be you exit, it's like Barney Rubble. And for instance, you go to the office every day, beep, and at 8, 9 o'clock, and everyone leaves at 5. But now with social media and the advent of technology, it feels like you can always be reached out and touched. They would like Instamayor, or, Dial-A-Mayor, or, Snapchat or whatever with me. And it makes it hard at times. But I think that truly it does help me sometimes when I go out to talk to the community. It allows me to decompress. It allows me some time to relax since we're not driving as much. The most events I've been in one day is 11. And
oh my gosh.
I tell people that I start the day really excited. And there's days truly where I, do end up in a puddle because you feel like you're just so tired and you want to help everybody and do everything, but you're limited by the powers that be. And I feel so grateful. I personally have faith, and that helps me a lot to be able to go to prayer and meditation and to be able to say that, I can do all things through people who God who gives me strength. And that gives me a lot of hope and help when I need it. But having those friends and family and having colleagues who take time to tell you how much you need to take a break and how much they care, just little things. It's the little things that make people realize how important it is to take that pause. And so talking to all of you today, it's a wonderful relaxation. It feels like group therapy at times. And so it's like saying, oh, good, I'm not the only one going through this COVID period in office, but working with one another, like I said, it really helps.
That's awesome. The sisterhood is really real.
Yes.
And I think, there are times, Fiona's one of those people that I can text at the middle of the night and just say, like, I had a really horrible day, but can you please answer this one question?
Yes.
And, you usually, I think she'll get to me, or she responds right away, always. So the sisterhood is real, and helping each other is real. And I think, Fiona, my mom's really into the K-dramas, and I'm starting to watch as well. But the things that I've heard today are: I'm the captain, loyalty, be part of the community, reset the table, only girl in the room, family, collaboration. Can you, as we finish up this panel that I'm so honored to have been on with you two, can you give us a few words of inspiration for the sisters who are watching?
All right. Number one, if you're going to get married, make sure you marry someone who is going to support you. My first husband, we're still friends, but he did not want me to be in politics. My husband now is a firefighter. He's also an elected member of the Oxnard Harbor Commission, so he gets it. And so he understands if I'm going to events or, things run long and, we don't have the perfect weekend that we had because something suddenly came up. I think that is super, super important to find your right partner. Number two, work hard, right? Find those mentors, ask for help. And also when you want something, let people know what you want and ask them to help you get there, because we cannot read people's minds. And so many times someone will run and say, well, I wanted to be in that position. I said, did you tell anyone? So I think you need to be proactive. Number four, I would say you need to be passionate about what you do. Public service is really, really difficult, but ultimately this is the best. It's an honorable profession. My father finally is happy that I'm the state treasurer, so I'm not embarrassing him anymore. I'm not wasting my education and my all of my public and private experience. But ultimately, you have to do something that you love every day, because otherwise, it's really, really hard to get up in the morning and motivate yourself if you're not doing something you love every day. So find what makes you passionate and stick to it, work hard, and just be kind to one another. Treat people with dignity and respect, because the people that you see going up are the same people you see coming down. So just be very, very mindful, be humble, be grateful, give back, and, love one another.
That's great. Lily?
I would say the same thing, is to be able to look at things differently sometimes, to be innovative, to be creative. And that's one of the things that I balance with my data needs. But always being friendly and approachable, being someone that has the nerve to ask and reach across the aisle. Sometimes when people aren't willing to listen, that you will take the stand and be willing to stand by yourself if necessary. Be a person with integrity, and be a person who has a heart. I think that sometimes it's underestimated that you can be kind and also successful, that you can be caring and also be convicted in terms of courage. And those are all things that are really important. Thank you for this wonderful time today.
That's wonderful. Man, this is the inspiration that I know I needed, but I know that all the participants, people watching, and you can always go back and watch this again for inspiration. Find a mentor, be yourself, be your true self, family. I love Fiona, marry the right person, so true. But collaboration, because we're at a time when all communities, we need to work together to move forward, and we need to be kind to each other. So ladies, thank you so much for all that you do. And APAPA, thank you too. Yin?
Thank you, Mona, Fiona, Lily. Wow. Thank you so much. And I felt like you spoke to me, especially Fiona. My husband is right here behind the camera right now. So that's how you could not have done it without a supportive spouse, your partner in life. So thank you very much. What amazing discussion we had this morning. I don't know about you all, but for someone like me who's not that interested in politics, I feel so pumped. I'm so inspired and so ready to serve.
You should run, Yen. Run for office. Yeah.
Thank you, Fiona. Truly appreciate your time. You guys have been amazing. Have a good afternoon, or whatever that you have, the rest of your day. I truly appreciate your time this morning, knowing how busy you are. You amazing woman. You inspire me every day. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Okay, see you later.
See you later. Okay, really, thank you. Thanks to the amazing speakers, panelists, and skillful moderators, we were able to learn so much. And we appreciate the challenges. Now, we really appreciate it. The challenges in the women's political journeys and pathways to leadership. Thanks also to all the elected officials who were able to join us this morning. You made us so proud because we know representation matters. Thank you, Masha and Susanna, for all your help and leadership in the planning and executing of our very first Women's Leadership Conference. We certainly couldn't have the inauguration of this Regina Yin's SHEro Award without you. I just can't wait. I cannot wait to see APAPA give out this award every year from now on. Thank you, Regina, for the inspiration for the award. Special thanks to our sponsors for your support and partnership with APAPA. You know that we can't succeed without you and your generous support. And to the Village of Helpers, from my amazing staff to the faithful volunteers, especially Jacqueline, who is only here for the summer from Oregon and has been a constant source of help for these virtual events, traveling each time from the Bay Area. Thank you. Thank you to our, yes, huge thank you. Thank you to our two other volunteers, cameraman, Abraham and Mike. We appreciate your help very much. And last but not least, to the amazing program producer, Ted Fong, and his delightful crew of Garrett and Nina and Matt today. We are very grateful for you who made it possible for us to continue hosting our events with or without shelter in place. Thank you very much. Okay, 2 downs and 1 more to go. As you learned from today, representation matters. So it's really, really important. I know I value my right to vote, and I hope you do too. With the country so divided at this time, the upcoming election is critical to bring forward the right leaders to lead and to bring people together. Our next virtual event is the National Voters and Candidates Forum. At this event, we will present issues and candidate panels, raise civic awareness, and increase participation in the democratic process. So mark your calendar for October 10th. Okay, we cannot wait to see you there. We depend on you to be there to have a deep and meaningful conversation. So for now, have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we thank you for being with us this morning. Goodbye.